Okay, everyone, welcome to the board meeting for voting meeting for the Indian Butte Area School District, Monday, July 27th. If we could stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And if I could just remind the folks that are here when it's time to, for you, if you have something to say, one of the board members, if you have something to say, just please speak into the mic so that the folks that are on the Zoom link can hear you. Mr. Scott, can you take the roll?
Ms. Albright.
Here.
Mr. Miller.
Here.
Mrs. Bell.
Here.
Mr. Strobel.
Sure, you'd have to do it.
Mr. B. Scott here. And Ms. Leone.
Here.
And Ms. Olson.
Here.
All but Mr. Strobel.
Oh, he is here on Zoom.
Oh, he is here.
Mm-hmm.
Hi, Mr. Strobel.
Okay, and
Can you hear me now?
I can.
Ah, okay. I was on the phone, but hang up now.
Gotcha now. We know you're here. Thank you.
Thanks.
All right, so procedures for public participation are listed on the agenda. Before I ask for presentations by the public on agenda items, I will say that we are going to, the superintendent will have a short presentation about our various plans and preparations for the beginning of school and what some of those plans may look like. And there will be a question and answer period at the end of that. It won't be interminable, but there will be a chance for you to ask your questions. So if you have comments that aren't questions, you can go ahead and raise your hand now and we'll hear you now. But if you actually want to hear and see the presentation before you ask your question, I would recommend you can do that too. So do we have any hands raised? Seeing none, we're going to go ahead and move on to the superintendent's report. Okay.
Wait a minute. Go back here. Yeah, but it's not showing what I need to show.
Okay.
Let's go back. Protected view. Enable. Have to enable editing. It's being trippy. There we go. I have it.
Okay, sorry about that. And I'm going to hand this over to Dr. Cooper.
Thank you, Madam President. My superintendent's report this evening, I will be sharing our Blazer Learning Community Health and Safety Plan for reentry into our schools for the 21 school year. The plan itself is a Pennsylvania Department of Education requisite that it be Board of School Director approved prior to commencing the 2020-2021 school year. I do want to remind the board that this plan is fluid and it may be subject to adjustment as we continue to learn more throughout this pandemic of COVID-19. And what is approved this evening, based on the continual changing guidance, may be requested that the plan be altered at future meetings. You'll find that the plan parallels the governor's reopening PA plan, and it's based on the green, yellow, and red phase. I do need to share with the board that although when the plan was developed by stakeholders, it's commencing the beginning of July and running through the middle of July, the things have changed obviously in just the past 10 days with new information that we've gotten. So what appears that some of the guidance that's coming forward from the Department of Health and the Department of Education at the state level still allows for us to be in a green phase. There continues to be mitigation strategies that the governor puts in place. The plan provides students and families with in-person or online virtual learning options. It allows for the district to pivot based on outbreaks of the pandemic at either the local, state, national level, and also allows for us to pivot as we continue to receive guidance from local, state, and federal government agencies. One of the things that the plan is unable to do, unfortunately, and I think if this were the case, we would all be rich, it's unable to guarantee for there to be a cure for COVID-19, but rather put mitigation strategies in place as we approach the 2020-21 school year. The plan, when it was developed, took a look at our priority focus areas of the district. Health and safety obviously is our number one priority as a district. We want to offer a competitive curriculum, provide opportunities for continual learning, invest in our culture, and be responsible in our resource allocation. And this is part of our comprehensive plan as a district, and we reference this on a continual basis whenever we're developing plans for the district at all levels. And they define our core values and beliefs of our community that are acceptance and respect, communication and collaboration, critical thinking and problem solving, celebrating specific successes. And these must always be present through our work as it relates to our priority focus areas previously shared. Our plan continues to look at preparing our graduates to be life ready. They contribute to our community, continue to be resilient, readily advocate for self and others, and effectively communicate with all or everybody, and reaching towards our vision of learning together and advocating for all through engaging our mission of taking pride in growing diverse learners in a safe environment. One of the things we continue to do as a district is reference all of these areas when we move forward to making decisions. Our health and safety plan, within that plan, I've identified some of the things on this slide which are some mitigation efforts and strategies, although not an entire inclusive list. These are some of the items that are included in our health and safety plan. Adjustment in our schedule to reflect, in particular, at the secondary level, a block schedule that reduces the number of transitions for our students while in our buildings, cutting it in half of what a traditional schedule would be. Increased cleaning and sanitization and hygiene education. Ventilation system audit. You'll see some information in the plan where we have done and worked with the trained systems, our vendor that has put our HVAC and ventilation system in place, and you'll see the requisites that are required, and we have a system that is very strong and circulates air within each classroom 3 to 4 times in an hour. We put in place health screenings and questionnaires checklists for our community members, parents, guardians to do with their children prior to entering the building, and would ask for them to be adhere to that and be accountable to those questions and checklists prior to sending students to school. We've put in place protective equipment, for example, plexiglass barriers in our high contact point areas, main office areas, nurses areas, counseling offices, and so forth. We have purchased personal protective equipment, or they're portable collapsible shields for every student. We're purchasing face coverings and masks for every student, and face shields will also be available. Our learning options that are in the plan, basically 4 options that we are looking at. And these are phased options based on local, state, and federal authorities' guidance. And again, aligned with the green, yellow, and red. But again, I'm not sure how that aligns with the continuing changing of the mitigation strategies the governor continues to put in place while we continue to be in the green phase, as he has not moved anyone back into the yellow phase. However, first option would be an in-person instruction in a brick and mortar environment, K to 12. A second option would be a hybrid or blended learning environment, K to 12, where we're rotating weekly schedule. And you'll see some slides after this that will explain this in a little bit more detail on what that may look like. Third option would be an in-person instruction in a brick and mortar environment, along with a hybrid or blended learning, where our K to 5 would be in person and our 6 through 12 students would be in a hybrid or blended learning environment. All 3 of those options do include the option of our Blazer Virtual Academy option. And then the 4th option to choose from would be an entire virtual online e-learning environment, K to 12, similar to what you had seen in the spring of 2020, however, would look differently and be more robust than this past spring. This plan allows for the district to pivot on short notice with regard to how we deliver our instruction to our learners. So that's fluid in the fact that based on what we see as far as community outbreaks, state outbreaks, federal outbreaks, we can fluidly move between one to the next in a rather simple manner. The first option, in-person instruction, would be obviously your typical Monday through Friday option, in-school, in-person learning with the mitigation strategies, some of the ones that I identified in the previous slide, and also inclusive in the plan. The second option of the hybrid blended learning would be the alternate weekly schedule or rotating weekly schedule, where we would have the students in 2 groups identified, Group A and Group B. The first week, Group A would be in-person instruction Monday through Thursday in a in-person environment, while Group B would be in a virtual or remote environment. Friday would be asynchronous instruction for all of our students. And then the following week, week 2, B would come in and do the in-person instruction. And Group A would be in the remote environment, with that Friday being entirely virtual. What this does is it puts 10 days of time frame between our students being in a brick and mortar environment. So it's 4 days of in-person, and then 10 days where they're not in school, if you include the weekends, and then they come back in for 4 more days. And that was a plan that the task force had looked at based on the signs of taking a look at symptoms and when they start showing up related to COVID-19, and allows for us to provide those 10 days of away with the cohort, with 4 days of the cohort being together, Group A and Group B. The third option would be the in-person instruction with the K to 5 and the 6 through 12 hybrid or blended learning environment. And then the last option would be the virtual online, where K-12 is all online. The direct your attention to the website. There's a couple links in the presentation. I could post this on the website at the conclusion of the meeting, so it's available tomorrow. There's a link that also puts you to the our reopening plan. It's a direct link to that place on the website, and also some frequently asked questions for our Blazer Virtual Academy. One of the things that we do know is we do anticipate an increase in the frequency of guidance from the Department of Health and Department of Education, including the number of changes and adjustments as we approach August and the start of the school year, obviously being a month away. But just in the past week alone, the latter part of last week, we continue to get updates and adjustments to the guidance. And we have a challenge of taking a look at guidance from the Center for Disease Control, World Health Organization, our Department of Health at the state level, our Department of Education at the state level, as well as utilizing the American Association of Pediatrics and information from there, and trying to coalesce that as we try to make decisions on what's going to be the most safe and healthiest environment to open our schools. And please, you need to understand that there's information out there that is some that's conflicting, and we're doing what we can to sort through that and make it fit our learning community here, to make sure that we have a safe return while preserving the education for our most valuable asset in our community. That's our children. So we will continue to do the best we can to deliver the education for our students and families, regardless of the challenges that we continue to be presented with this COVID-19 pandemic. I do want to give a special thank you and a shout out to Mr. Rob Hurley, our Assistant to the Superintendent for Administrative Services, and the Health and Safety Planning Task Force, who spent the first part of the month of July meeting to put this plan together. It's a lengthy process, a lot of time spent, because we wanted to make sure that we developed something that was fluid and that would provide us with pivot points as this pandemic continues to change, and provide us with challenges, and we learn new information. So thank you. Thank you, Madam President, and you can address questions.
I have a couple of questions. The first would be, in the hybrid model, how do we address extracurricular activities? What was the thought that the students, one week on, 1 week off, how would they continue, or what's the thinking there?
Well, at this time, the guidance remains the same, that they would still be participating if we get to that point. I mean, again, there's some unanswered questions there, and we don't know where we're going to be when it comes time for the official start of the activities. We do know that what we're seeing at the collegiate level are some cancellation of some athletic contests. I mean, I'll reference the one at the Pennsylvania State Athletic Conference, which is our state system of higher education, which is a state entity. The MAC has just canceled their fall, which is schools like Alvernia, Albright, so on and so forth. So, at this time, we don't have any guidance from the Pennsylvania Interscholastic Athletic Association. They have not put anything official out. I mean, the last one they put out was, I think it was the beginning of last week, indicating that they still plan on starting athletics in the phased opening that they do with the preseason heat acclimation and then the original start date. But we do know that that's also continuing to change. So our extracurriculars and activities in athletics would follow suit with whatever that guidance is.
I think it would still be possible to continue if the student wasn't here for the day.
They would come in for their requisite practice.
Okay. And I guess my other question revolves around change. Well, I guess there are two hybrid models that we have to choose from. How do we do that? But I was really wondering, how quickly can we switch? we're set up typically, what do you anticipate a switch to look like? Do we have to move, a week's notice, or what kind of notice would be involved? And I know this is a hypothetical question.
Yeah, I mean, we're set up, I believe, to the point where, within a couple of days' notice, we can make that transition. Obviously, there's transportation would need to be notified and those sort of things, but, I do anticipate it wouldn't be an extended period of time. I would think in a couple of days, we could make that transition.
Thank you.
Sure.
Any other board members have questions at this time before I open it up to the folks
I just want
online?
to say something real quick. It's more of a comment than a question. I think a lot of people are very focused on the total reopening for students, and I think as parents, we need to understand, even more as educators, that school is not going to look like it has in the past. I'm actually very conflicted about sending my own kindergartners here, because this is not what school is going to look like. Saying we reopen, this is not the environment that I want my children in. Kindergarten to me is arts and crafts and groups and hugs and lots of hands-on, and I understand that that's not possible, but that's also what we have to realize when you're choosing total reopening is you're not just getting your life back, it's going to be totally different. It's going to be different for the teachers, it's going to be different for the kids, and it's not going to be ideal. So I just want to throw that out there. My opinions are all over the place, but it's just really sad because I think when people say, oh, we're going to totally reopen, everything's going to be fine, it's not going to be what school used to be.
I have a question on this, just so I can understand. So are they the same teachers for the online versus the group as in the classroom? Like what is the hybrid model?
Correct. It's the same teacher for those students, yes.
So
It would be more of a
only more kind of
asynchronous.
zoomed into the classroom, is that what I'm understanding?
Can be asynchronous for the most part, maybe some synchronous depending on the environment that we have. So it could be a little bit of both.
Does the board have any other questions for Dr. Cooper before I open it up to?
I don't have a question, I have a comment though. I just want to say thank you for, I think there's a lot of effort being put into this. Opening school and all the normal activities that take place in that daunting task to begin with. But
Mr.
you throw
Strobel?
this into the mix and then,
Let me just stop you for a quick second. I'm the only one who can hear you. So
Okay.
when you say whatever your question is, I'm going to have to repeat it for the assembled
I'm sorry, I'm good then.
Dr. Cooper. Go ahead.
good.
Oh, now
No,
you're
I
good.
just want to thank I want to thank them for their efforts. No, it's really at the end of the day, there's a lot going on, and so that's really what you say. Opening the school is a daunting task to begin with, though. Add all this other COVID and the unrest and all that. There's just a lot going on. Good stuff. I want to say thank you.
Mr. Strobel just wanted to thank us all, especially the administration and the task force for putting the time in, for putting the safety plan together. Okay, if no other board members, I can hear myself. If no other board members have questions at this time, I will open it for anybody who wants to raise their hand.
Mrs. Hicks, I'm going to unmute you.
We have Mrs. Fix. Can you just state your address?
Oh, sorry. Amy Hicks.
Oh, Amy Hicks. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Okay. My question is with regard to the two hybrid models that are posted there. Within the task force, we only had viewed and considered the one option, which was splitting the groups in half and seeing kids 4 days in person, and then switching the groups for the next 4 days of instruction. In the presentation that we just listed, there's another hybrid model that shows kids K to 5 attending in school, while the 6 to 12 students are attending in some hybrid fashion. When did this part of the plan arise? It's the first I'm seeing it.
Ms. Hicks wanted to know, as far as the middle options, the options that have the blended learning, there is an extra one listed beyond what was discussed during the task force, which is the one where K to 5 is going to school 5 days a week, and 6 to 12 is going to school 4 days on, 10 days off. And she wanted to know when the other option for K to 5 was added to the safety plan.
Yeah, that's a great question. As you know, the last meeting of the task force took place, I believe it was July 15th, it was a Wednesday. There had been some additional research that had come out from the American Association of Pediatrics with some information regarding transmissions of COVID amongst young students, from young students to adults, so on and so forth. So obviously, taking a look at some research, we continue to morph the plan and modify the plan. And as I said during the presentation, what we approve or ask the board to approve this evening, we could very well be sitting back here again at our August 10th meeting and asking them to approve something different or modification of that plan adjustment. And that's what the requisite of the State Department of Ed is.
Okay, I do have one question from the folks that came to the building. If you could just come up and you can use that microphone.
Is it on?
If you turn it on.
Hello, can you hear me? My name is Shane Coppel, 830 Badgertown Road. With the hybrids and changing it from level to level, is there a percentage of COVID patients that you're, like people who are infected, is it a number? Like if 50 people are infected, are you going to switch to one model, if there's 100, another model, or is it just what you're going to do, what the state recommends, or how are you guys going to put in motion when you're going to switch from category to category?
Yeah, I hear you.
Yeah, we're required when we have outbreaks and identification of COVID-19 among the folks that are in school, whether students or staff, to work with our, the district's required to work with the health agencies. In this case, we don't have a local health agency. Berks County Emergency Services is about as close as we get. We do have contact people that are identified in our plan that we can contact and work with them to provide some guidance on where we go and what that threshold is, along with folks in the Department of Health. And those are identified in the plan. So, I mean, we can't really give a set number per se, whether it's percentage or numbers, but we will work with the local health officials and agencies prior to making those decisions to help guide us.
Okay, so then my follow-up question is more with the sports and any other activities. If you're doing, if someone might consider 10 as an outbreak, some might consider 100. If you switch from one model to another because there's an outbreak, and you have that 10-day window of no one coming to school, that is to protect the students and the teachers. But if you allow the other extra activities to go on, you're really defeating the purpose of people not coming. Can you hear me? From people not coming to school. So it doesn't quite make sense because you have football's a very contact sport, basketball, wrestling, soccer, and if you're not going to school to keep kids safe, why would we continue to have sports? Because because you're risking an infection during that 10-day period, which then you come back to school and infect your other students.
And we'll continue to take guidance from PIAA regarding extracurricular and co-curriculars. I mean, at this point in time, as of their guidance was released early last week, they had not, their intent was to remain the same, but again, we anticipate continuing to see an ever-changing guidance on that as we approach the heat acclimation period for our fall athletics programs. We anticipate a more definitive answer on that, and will allow for us to pivot and adjust our plan here.
But yeah, I think there are some differences. The athletics and the extracurriculars are outside, where you do social business and MBA, while you're confined to really indoor area, where it's a bigger chance of spreading. So there are some differences between extracurricular and the school itself.
Right, and I understand that, but you're still risking the infection. I don't know why you guys have sports going on now before even school starts, because you're risking before the school even opens an infection coming in. So on the first day, there's football practice starting. First day of school starts, someone gets infected from, tackling or locker rooms. Now they come into school, you're risking shutting down the whole school because you're allowing sports happening right now. Even though it's outside. It doesn't matter, it's full contact.
It's part of the education.
You're trying to keep 6 feet apart and you're tackling. I mean, are we doing this for protection for the students? I mean, I like to see school open 5 days a week. Kids can come in and learn. If they have to miss football, tennis, basketball, so be it. At least they get to learn. That's what I'm concerned about. That's it.
All right, before I take any of the other raised hand folks, I did get an email from parent Janine Taylor. She wanted to know what the results of the survey, as far as what percentage of people said they would prefer online versus in person, and when do we choose an option? The board will be selecting an option tonight, but with the caveat that we can make a change if facts on the ground here in Dania Boone, facts within this county of Berks County, or within the state, or Commonwealth of Pennsylvania change. We can make changes up until the time school starts. But that's for the survey question.
Yes, I'm going to defer to Mr. Hurley. He has some of the preliminary results, so if you could share that with Hurley.
Basically, 67% of the families prefer to have some sort of in-person instruction. 33% approximately of our families want just online instruction.
Thank you.
Okay. Sorry about that. Can I get another raised hand? If we could unmute them.
Good evening. This is Matthew Gaskins, 1 Yellow House Drive. My questions pertain to the full online virtual option that is going to be available. The first part of the question is, if I understand correctly the presentation from earlier, the full online option would be available for parents to choose regardless of what the board decides tonight, be it full open or a hybrid model. Is that correct?
Okay. Can you tell me your name again?
Yes, it's Matthew Gaskins.
Matthew Gaskins has the question. He wants to know if, regardless of what the board votes for tonight, as far as where we're going to start the school year, he wants to know if starting online only is an option for all parents at that point. Does that summarize what you said.
Yeah, did I understand that part of the presentation correctly?
Yeah. He wants to know if he understood that part of the presentation correctly.
Yes, regardless of the option that the board moves forward with this evening and plan, the virtual option will be available to all of our students. Our virtual academy option will be available to all of our students in its first three options.
Okay, and then as far as that virtual option, when will parents be allowed to sort of preview what that sort of interface and curriculum is going to look like? You mentioned it's going to be similar to what this past spring is going to be, but different and/or enhanced. Will parents be allowed to sort of test drive what that's going to be to know what it's all about?
He's asking if parents will have a chance to find out a little bit more about that online option. He understands that it will be a little bit more rigorous than what we had last spring. He wants to know if there will be an option made available for parents to learn a little bit more before they have to make a decision if they want to go with the all virtual right off the bat.
Yes, we would be scheduling for a presentation for folks that are interested in it via a Zoom link or in person, obviously having to follow the large group requisites that are set forth by the Department of Health here, and no more than 25 in a large group gathering indoors. But there will also be a Zoom piece of that presentation on what the virtual academy looks like.
And then last question about this: when would the sort of sign-up commitment process take place? Is that going to be coming up soon, or is it going to be closer to the actual date of the start of the school year?
Do we yet have a hard date when parents have to decide if they are going to choose the Blazer Learning Academy separate online option or what we're doing? If it is not chosen that we're going to do a remote right from the gate.
That we would make a program available to our parents within a week here, and then after the presentation we would try to set a hard date that's approximately a week thereafter to give us the opportunity to appropriately plan for the number of parents that have chosen that option, as well as appropriately plan for anything that we do that's within the plan that it's either in person in some way, shape, or form, or combination thereof.
Thank you.
Thank you. We have a couple more hands.
Next we have Megan Hollis.
Hi, I'm Megan Hollis at 18 Terry Court. My question was just mostly in regards to the hybrid options. I feel like utilizing one of those from the get-go is the safest way to protect our students and our staff by limiting the number of people in the building each week. I feel like if there's more accommodations for desks to be separated, is this something at all that would be considered from the get-go or not at all?
It is the caller's opinion that one of the hybrid options would be the safest for us to try from the beginning, and she's asking if that would be something we could be considering from the get-go, or does it have to be all 5 days, everybody every day, or all at home doing distance learning? Is a hybrid option from the start of school an option?
Yes,
Which I'd say yes, it is. Did you have any other questions?
No, that was it. Thank you.
Okay, great.
I have a follow-up.
John Sheehan, you're next.
We'd like to follow up the response. I thought the plan right now is we're going to work for the guidance being somewhat green. And the current state, we're going to start with full attendance, not in the hybrid plans. Is that the current state of the plan today?
On page 5 of the draft report, the draft plan, that we are voting on today. There are the four options that Dr. Cooper presented, and we have to check one of those boxes for the beginning of school.
Okay.
And we don't, while we call them like green, yellow, red, we can choose to do, even though we are technically in the green, we can choose to do any of them.
Okay. I thought we were going to provide the guidance from the medical professionals and government agencies. If we were greenish, that we're going to go in person.
Yeah, the state is indicated in this form, Mr. Miller, or in the document, that these four options are what is available to open up the school year with, and that's the in-person again, the hybrid K-12, in-person, a combination of in-person K-5, and a hybrid 6-12 or an all virtual learning opening.
Julia?
I believe that's Mr. Strobel.
Yes. Isn't it, even if let's assume that we decided to go full green, everybody back, everybody still has the option, no matter what's decided tonight, to do online. Is that accurate?
Correct. Mr. Strobel just reminded everyone that no matter what we choose today, you can always, as a parent, choose to have your kids in online from the beginning. I'm sorry that we cut off whoever had the next question that they were preparing. If Mr. Mass could tell me who that was again.
That'll be John Shield.
Hi, John Shield, 100 Holly Drive. I had two questions. The first one regarding the plan of action with full reopen. If we start the school year off, and whether it be a hybrid plan or a full reopen, and parents don't feel comfortable, I guess, with some of the precautions that are being taken, can they choose after school has already started to switch to the virtual learning?
Okay, we're going to answer that one first, after I tell the board what it is, and then you're going to tell me your second question. He's asking that if at any point after a parent has chosen to send their kid to the brick and mortar school, if they, for any reason, are uncomfortable, they want to make a change, if they would be able to switch to the online learning model. And that was one of the questions that somebody emailed me as well.
Yes, they would be allowed to move from one to the other. If after the start of the school year they intend to change their mind, or up to the beginning they thought they were going to send their student and they said they wanted to go virtual, that would be an option as well.
And would they be able to make that change after school had already begun?
Yes, they will.
Okay. What was the second question?
So my second question is in regards to transportation. I guess keeping kids socially distanced on the bus. I know in previous years some overcrowding on buses has been an issue. Has there been any discussion to staggering start times with the different schools to make sure that we have enough buses? Or are bus runs just going to be lengthened like that? How's that going to work?
He's asking a question about the bus runs. We know that we've had crowded buses in the past, three to a seat, and he's asking what changes we are considering or definitely implementing, if you know what they were, to make changes to implement more distancing for the kids.
The plan calls for no more than 2 students to a seat in a bus, which would obviously increase the number of buses or bus runs. However, as per the Department of Health guidance, the requisite of face coverings would be required for students to ride the bus. The distancing, again, would be 2 students per bus. If we go into an in-person environment, if it's a hybrid environment where you're doing an A-B split, obviously the distancing would be greater because it's half the number of students.
Okay,
so
Mr. Shipp?
like school, so school start times will be similar to what they were. Like we're not gonna say the high school starts at this time, the middle school, and then the elementary schools. We have enough buses to cover everything that we know this is gonna work.
He's asking if we have enough buses to make no changes to start times at the different schools.
That's correct.
That is
The
correct.
start times and end times would be the same.
Okay, thank you.
I have a question regarding that.
Yes.
Survey, how many elected that they were going to be utilizing bus service?
It was virtually the same, it was a couple percentage different from people in Old Cyber and
Thank you. Next raised hand.
All right, James Ariani.
Hi.
Hi, James Ariani, 104 Meadow Wrestling. Just wanted to ask, the virtual online learning that you guys have set up, is that going to mirror exactly what's happening in the schools? Or will it be different based on a different education plan?
Got it. The online learning that we have set up that is separate from a brick and mortar setting. She's asking if the curriculum will be identical or if it would be different.
The intent with the online option would be the delivery of the instruction to the greatest extent possible by our teachers, our professional staff, to be able to provide that, or facilitated by our staff to the greatest extent possible through using Edgenuity as the platform, which is a standards aligned platform.
So, based on the schedules that the kids picked, if we elect for them to do the virtual, it may not match what they have selected.
Are you asking if
Course-wise, for the selection, I have a high school student.
I see.
Is that
She's
going to
asking
match doing
if
virtual versus in school?
I get what you're saying. She's asking if course selection that has already occurred at the high school level, if those courses would still be available for a student if they chose an online learning option from the get-go.
Yes. Well, again, to the greatest extent possible, taught by our teachers. However, maybe end up being facilitated by them through the use of the vendor Edgenuity, that platform.
Okay, and also for 6 feet distancing in the classroom, I know that that's one of the CDC recommendations. There are some classes, especially mine being a computer teacher, that's not physically possible to do 6 feet of spacing between. What precautions is the district putting in place to keep not only teachers safe, but also our students?
Did you hear that? Okay.
Yeah.
The other board members, she's asking if what we are doing in addition to face coverings to ensure the safety of our students and teachers when some of the classrooms it's going to be very difficult or not possible to have 6 feet distancing from everyone.
So we're, again, in the guidance, it indicates that the social distancing were feasible, and the district, in our plan, will do that to the greatest extent feasible. The other PPEs that have been put in place will be available trifolds, separators for each of our students. The district also will have purchased a face mask for each one of our students, along with a lanyard that they can house that around their neck so it's easily accessible in the event that when they remove them for eating purposes as outlined in the guidance, they can do so.
doesn't address our computer labs where you can't use a trifold to separate because it's not a desk. So in those type situations, what are we doing to protect the students, or are we going to limit the number of kids that can take a computer class so that we can distance them?
The caller's asking if, in say, for example, in a computer lab where using a three-sided shield is not feasible, what will we be doing to ensure some sort of distancing between the students?
The mitigation efforts that we have here, the desk shield, we have the face mask, and social distancing is impossible. We are trying to separate, we're also trying to use all of our larger construction areas in the building so we can spread students out as much as possible. We are also going to be using outside as much as possible to try to spread students out where this is feasible. In some circumstances, it will not be feasible. We are doing the best we can. The buildings were built the way they were.
And I understand that. That's why I'm raising questions. Also, in your plan, you talked about a fogger system. And are those fogger systems able to be used in computer labs, or is that going to damage the computers that are there?
And the caller is asking about the foggers that we're going to be using when students aren't there. The foggers that will disinfect the rooms if they would be deleterious to electronic equipment. And Mr. Bickerstaff has assured us that they are not going to cause problems with the computer equipment.
They won't cause any problems with the computer when we check with Scott Max about that. And the disinfecting wipes that are in the classroom themselves are for computers, they will work and they're safe for computers.
Okay, but that's different from the foggers. So then turn is
that's the foggers have a chemical in them.
Be used every night. Or did I misread that in the plan that you have online?
I'm sorry, could you repeat what you said?
Sure. In your online plan for reopening, you talked about using foggers to disinfect rooms.
Right.
And it made it sound like those foggers were going to be used every night. So in a lab, they're talking about using the disinfecting wipes. So does that mean the cleaning crew are going to come down and wipe off keyboards and monitors and mouses? Or is that something that teachers or students are going to have to do?
I do know she's asking some pretty specific questions about our safety plan and whether or not there are some places where we're talking about using foggers every night and some places where we're talking about cleaning things off with disinfecting wipes every night. She's asking if we know if someone's going to be going around and using disinfecting wipes in like the computer lab versus the chemistry lab.
Is this on a daily basis, or are we talking on a period basis? Or
Daily basis.
Daily basis, yes. Yes, they will be cleaned on a daily basis.
Okay. And the tablets that are supposed to be given out at the middle school, do we know if those are going to be ready to help with the ability to flip between in-person learning versus online learning? Are those going to be ready to give out to kids? Do we know? Because that would really help.
The caller is asking if the iPads that we have already approved for the middle school students will be ready for the first day of school.
Yes, those will be available.
Yes, they will.
They will.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Okay. Next.
Next, Jennifer Manolis.
Hi.
Thank you very much. Actually, Mr. Shield had asked my question, so thank you very much for your time.
Oh, okay, great.
Have a good
That's the easiest one.
Next is identified as Tristan.
Thanks, Adrian Heberlin at 143 Blackwood Lane.
It's Adrian Heberlin from Blackwood Lane. Go ahead.
Yes. My question would be, and I'm sure it's going to be a logistical nightmare, but if you have multiple kids in the district and you go to the hybrid blended model where there's week A and week B, are they going to do the best they can to keep the same families on the same week?
Okay, this is a question I also received from a member of the community in an email. If we do go to a blended model where kids are going to school for 4 days on, 10 days off, if you have a family that has multiple students in the district, are we going to do our best to have them on the same schedule?
We will try, we'll make an attempt. I mean, I'm not sure that we can guarantee without taking a look logistically what that may look like and what different levels are. But I mean, we can look, but I mean, at this point, I'm not sure we can guarantee that happens.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next is identified as Sue Green.
Hi,
Colleen Breen, I live at 203 Woodbridge Lane.
this is Colleen Breen from Woodbridge Lane.
If you look at other countries that have gone back to school successfully, all of them have done some type of hybrid system. I believe Israel tried to go back full and then it failed. All the countries in Scandinavia did hybrid and were successful. I feel like we're setting ourselves up for failure by going full throttle. While we're in the green, that doesn't mean normal life. That doesn't mean an entire school bus of kids. Yes, they have masks on, but you know that kids are not going to keep their masks on the way they need to. I just feel like going this full all together, we'll be lucky if we make it 2 days. Why not set up for the hybrid system, in which case groups should be alphabetically by family. That's ridiculous to be splitting families up. That's an absolute nightmare for families. That's all I have to say.
Okay, her comments were that she's advocating for us to pick one of the hybrid models. She said all other countries that have sent their kids back to school, the ones that have had success are ones that use some sort of hybrid model. And she strenuously believes that we should be able to keep families in multiple buildings on the same schedule. No questions, just those comments. Okay, Mr. Matz, can I ask you how many people we still have?
We have approximately. We have
Sorry, like 5 different people just raised their hands when I said that.
Yes, we have about 8 more. Kyle Smolsky is currently unmuted.
Hi, I'm a teacher in the district. There's been a big emphasis on increasing rigor and structure with this. I just wanted to see if you could elaborate at all on the plan to support teachers and possibly doing online learning while at the same time as teaching in person.
This is Kyle Smolsky, and he wants to know what extra supports we're going to be offering to teachers to support a more rigorous form of online learning than what we had in spring. Does that accurately reflect what you asked?
Well, just so I was looking to see if they have any guidance on how we're going to be supported in providing online and in-person learning at the same time and still maintaining the rigor and structure that we had last year.
He's wondering what supports will be there for teachers for some sort of blended learning and also providing more rigor than we did last spring.
Yeah, our focus in our professional learning, continuing learning at the start of the school year, at our time before the students come back to school, as we've started building out a plan to provide that. Also, we will utilize our instructional coaching model that's been fully supported by the board with a K-12 instructional technology coach, a coach in each one of our buildings, as well as our special education coach. So we do have a model that I feel is in place to allow for us to support our professional staff in that environment.
All right, we have 8 people waiting to speak. I'm gonna let all 8 of them speak, but if anybody still has a question after those 8, I would encourage you, email me, email the principal of the school where your student would normally attend, email somebody else in the administration. It's not that I don't want you to have your answer. It's just that, we are dealing with like a small, a limited amount of time. So
Next up, we have Lauren Bonus.
Hi.
Hi. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Hi, I'm Lauren Bonus. I live at 710 Ridge Drive.
Okay.
I just wanted to make a comment as well as a follow-up with a question regarding that. I think one of the most important things during all this is communication. I understand that things are very fluid and change often. I would like to comment on that. I think it is kind of unacceptable that Dr. Cooper and the board cannot hear us directly. I think it's a shame that our questions and comments have to be repeated back because some of the information, unfortunately, is not being expressed clearly. As well as communication and not being expressed clearly, I also think it's very important to be clear when discussing the virtual online learning. I think there's a lot of confusion because the term virtual and online learning is being used so loosely that we're not being clear in the specifics of online learning when it is involved the brick and mortar or the hybrid versus the Blazer Virtual Academy. I think there's a lot of confusion when we're discussing that, and I myself get confused. So just to be clear, my question is, if we were to do brick and mortar and we're have to pivot to a hybrid and online learning, those teachers that are teaching in the classroom will then teach the students online, correct?
Okay. She's a little disappointed in us that I have to repeat questions so that we can all hear it. And I am sorry about that.
Isn't that because somebody suggested earlier they wanted Zoom and in person and we're all in the same room so the Zoom doesn't work? Is that
Correct. It's because we're all in the same room, and if we all had our microphones, it would give too much feedback.
Okay.
And there are some people who came to the in-person. And to the second point, we do have to be careful when we talk about the difference between a brick and mortar, hybrid and blended learning, online environment, and online learning from the start with the Blazer Academy. And I agree, I am sometimes a little loose with my language there. And so we all have to be a little bit more careful with that. And that brings me to her question. If we move at any point into a point where everybody in the school district is doing their learning from home, online, not coming into the buildings at all, at that point, all classes would be taught by teachers from Daniel Boone. Is that accurate? that accurate, that was your question, ma'am?
Yes.
Okay.
If we would move from a hybrid environment or an in-person only to an all virtual, it would be, the instruction would occur through our Daniel Boone Area School District professional staff. Yes, it would be our teachers delivering that instruction. When I say similar in nature to what it was last spring, similar in nature to schedule, however, there would be more robust and more synchronous experiences and opportunities for our learners.
Okay. Thank you. And then if you were to choose BVA, the online learning, those teachers would be through that specific curriculum and program and would not be our Daniel Boone teachers, correct?
We don't really know the answer to that question until we know how many people we have who have interest in that.
Okay, because I think, I know for myself and as many other parents, keeping that connection and the bond that the students have with their teachers is extremely important. And I think if we knew that choosing whether Blazer Virtual Academy or in person and switching to hybrid, if we knew that we could still have our Boone teachers, it might make a bit of a difference.
And
continue that bond and support.
Her comment is that if you have to choose BVA and it means, I'm not saying it does, if it means that they no longer will for this year have a teacher from Daniel Boone, that really breaks the continuity or the bond that they have with the teachers here. I will say I agree with you, but that as Dr. Cooper said, there will be a meeting for anybody who's trying to make that decision next week, and you will still have some time after that to make that decision. We are hoping that we can have some more certainty for you by then. It still might not be 100% certainty, but I'm hoping that we will have some more certainty for you what that option will look like.
Okay.
When that meeting happens.
Thank you.
Okay.
Next up, we have Matt and Tyler Lorenz.
Hello?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Hi, this is Alinda Ferenz.
This is Alinda Ferenz.
I'm at 106 Victoria Drive, of course in Douglasville. I just want to thank you guys very much for taking on this unique situation. I definitely don't envy you, and I wouldn't want to be in your position. But I do have a few questions. I personally am choosing to send my children to school under the brick and mortar. But I do have a question. I often send them to school sometimes with colds, as most parents do, because you can't stay home for every single cold. If they come to school and they have a cold and they have symptoms of a common cold, which resembles the symptoms of the COVID, what is the protocol of sending them home? How long do they have to stay home? And how do they re-enter back into school?
Okay, her question is, once it's determined through the questionnaire that a student might have symptoms that will mean that they need to be kept home that day, how will it be determined when they can return to school? Is that kind of what we're asking? Did I miss a part of it?
No, sometimes I know that children sometimes will have about 2 or 3 colds in a season. And
Agreed. I'm not looking forward to November at all.
Right, exactly. And so what I'm worried about is that if they go in at the brick and mortar and they have a cold, are they going to have to stay quarantined for so many days? Are they going to have a note from a doctor, or are they going to have to show proof that they
I understand.
no
Yes.
COVID?
This might be a question for Mr. Hurley, who ran our task force. She's asking what is the current policy going to be for students if they do have symptoms of a cold? How long, what is going to be the criteria to be allowed back into school? Will it be automatic 14
If
days?
a student is diagnosed with COVID currently, and by the way, this changes too when you look at CDC stuff, they just announce nowadays. But if they're diagnosed with COVID, they're going to need a doctor's note to return to school. If there are, and it just changed on the other day, and it changed it to 24 hours, if they're demonstrated without many, with this giving news, I'm not a health professional here, but it's written by our health professional at least, but the 24 hours symptom-free without medication, if it's like one of those 2 days that are there. So if it's just one symptom, doesn't necessarily mean it's COVID. And again, I'm not a doctor, I'm not a nurse, but what I will say is anyone who is diagnosed with this will be with COVID, going to need a doctor's note to return.
Okay.
Yeah,
So
let me just say one of the things that Mr. Hurley said, the most recent guidance that we got from the Department of Health said that, actually from the Department of Education in Pennsylvania, is that if a student, as Mr. Hurley said, has a symptom that may be COVID related but maybe not, and then they're symptom free for 24 hours, that we should not be creating a guidance that would cause any more lengthy absence from school than what our normal guidance would be for any other health issue. And that is what the guidance is from the Pennsylvania Department of Education.
Okay, so if my son or sons would have a cold and it would last more than 2 days, and typically I think after 3 days I think you need a doctor's note anyway.
Correct.
But after, like, say they have a cold for 2 days and they have the symptoms of a cold that go beyond, because cold symptoms do last up to a week, we would have to keep them out of school. So my question is, if they're in school during the brick and mortar, how do they go about learning? Would they have to go on to virtual online, or are classes going to be Zoomed, or are they going to have a virtual stream of the classes? I know that in the plan it says that the students aren't responsible for their work, but if they're still learning during that time, then they typically would go to school with a common cold.
I understand what you're saying. So she's asking, what is the plan if a student does end up, because they are sick for several days, or even if they're quarantining just to be safe for several days, how would that student be getting instruction? Because normally, if your kid it just has the sniffles, you might just send them to school, and now we're going to be playing it safe and keeping them home.
Right.
So, what is if the other kids in their cohort are in the classroom? Will they be working at home?
It would be treated as an absence from school. Any other environment, they're home for a couple of days. We collect work, send it home, send it back to the teacher, get it corrected. Just that's been the case in the past in that situation, because it's not a long-term extension beyond a week. We would handle it that way.
I do realize that, but like I said, students they do come down with a common cold about 2 or 3 times a season, and sometimes even more. And if their symptoms go on for a whole week, and typically you would send them to school with a cold, how are they could miss so many days of school. They could miss, if it's a cold for a week, it's 7. If they have 2 colds, it's 14 days. If they have 3 colds, that's 21 days of school that's missed. How are they going to get their learning?
The answer that I previously gave would be the answer for that. I mean, it's not, unless a parent makes a decision to place a student in the virtual platform at that point in time, moving forward, we certainly make that switch at that time. Otherwise, we would handle it the same we would with an absence.
Right. I could just see a lot of children getting common colds and having to stay home and missing a lot of class.
Now, one thing I just wanted to interrupt for just a quick second. If we have the ability to make some alterations to our safety plan as we go forward, if it does become something where we're seeing that on an average day we would expect to see 10% of our kids be absent and it's really closer to 35, we could be making some changes to the way we deliver our education at that point. And we have the ability to do that and get that approved by PDE after the school year starts. And maybe we will have to look at that once flu and cold season starts. But this is our starting point for the start of the year.
Okay, very good. And if we would go to the hybrid blended learning, is there any way to make when the group B is, or group A or group B is at home learning online, is there any way to make that a little more synchronous rather than asynchronous? With maybe just zooming in on the instruction that the teacher is providing at the time?
She's asking that between groups A and group B, is there any way to make the learning for those two groups be as synchronous as possible, where perhaps group A would be watching a Zoom or watching the teacher as she's teaching kids in group B, so they're all learning the same thing on the same day, even though some of them are in school and some of them are home. Is that kind of where we were with that?
Just to make sure that everybody is kind of on the same page.
Right. To keep all the students in group A and group B on the same page if we go with a hybrid model.
It would be a combination of synchronous and asynchronous instruction. But for the most part, when those students are not in the in-person environment, the folks that are home would be more or less an asynchronous, just because of the pattern of what our professional staff are doing as far as educating and instructing students.
So there's no way that you could zoom in on the instruction that they're providing at the time?
She's asking if they could zoom in on the instruction that's happening on that day.
It would be, again, asynchronous, not synchronous in nature.
Okay.
So.
And then if you would just, I know that some of us who are sending our children to brick and mortar are considering transporting our children to school just because the buses will be crowded. And I know that your statistics show that it's not going to change from the year prior, last year. But if there are parents who are going to opt to take their students to school, I have one at the middle school, one at the high school, and I can't get them to school at the same time. So I hope that you would consider staggering the start time of school.
She asked if the caller is considering most likely dropping her kids off and picking them up from school. And last year, there were some buildings that closed and opened at the same time. And she's asking if that will still be the case if we are having probably significantly more parents dropping kids off, picking them up.
So as far as them coming to school, it's perhaps later than what would typically be the case when they have to be
yeah. I'm sorry.
Yeah, like having a 15-minute difference between the schools, or a 20-minute difference between the school start times. So that way you can get somebody into the middle school and then someone to the high school, or even the elementary schools start later, but for middle school and for high school.
To have the start time for middle school and high school maybe be staggered by 15 minutes or so.
I don't know if that's. We haven't looked at that as an option at this point. We would have obviously exercise flexibility for students who are late as a result of multiple drop-offs of families.
Thank you. And then the last thing is, I'm very glad that you are keeping the sports open right now and the activities open right now. My sons need the socialization. It's keeping them healthy. It's keeping them off of their iPads. It's keeping them from overeating. I think that it's, there's pros and cons to closing the activities and sports programs down, and there's a pros and cons to keeping them open. So thank you.
And then she wanted to just express her gratitude that we still do have sports available for fall sports. Okay, we're getting closer to the end of the line.
All right, the next individual is identified as Galaxy S10.
Hi.
Hi, sorry I didn't identify.
No, it's okay.
7630 Boyertown Pike.
I'm sorry, what's your name again?
Shannon McCain.
This is Shannon McCain. Go ahead.
I have two questions. The one question is with the hybrid situation, with the kids being home and doing the Zoom courses. I know my daughter struggled a little bit at the end of the year, this last year, with getting her work done by, say, the 3 p.m. when they were supposed to have it turned in. And my family's basically essential workers that we have to go into work. Is there going to be leniency as far as getting their work turned in? If they're struggling throughout the day and need a little bit of assistance from an adult once we get home?
Okay. Her question is, considering the fact that we've already stated that an online option, if we do online or if we do a blended learning where there are some days where they're doing home learning, if we do have more rigor than we did last year, will they have the ability to will there be leniency in due dates and stuff and things like that, so that if there isn't a parent home because people are essential workers and something's due at 6 but mom and dad don't come home until 8, will there be the ability for some sort of leniency, even saying that we want the work to be more rigorous than it was last spring?
I think in this whole situation, we have to exercise some leniency throughout the whole process and understanding that we're dealing with young people and also dealing with and navigating situations that are different from family to family. So I think it's going to be very important for the communication to occur between the student, the teachers, building level administration on what that looks like to make sure that the accountability measures are still in place for students, but also understanding that in certain circumstances, as with anything, leniency may have to be addressed.
Okay, thank you. My other question is, if they are in school, what is the plan as far as like the in-school lunch program?
Okay. Her second question is, what will lunch look like? Which I actually think is a good question.
Mr.
I know the answer, but I do.
Yeah, the thing we're trying to accomplish at lunch, and it does look different, and there's a building-specific aspect to this, but what we're trying to do is spread the kids out. The idea is to use social distancing in lunch where all the kids are 6 feet away, because they certainly won't have their personal protective equipment on while they are eating. So we're going to be spreading the kids out at least 6 feet apart. It does look different in each of the buildings. We are going to be using our cafeteria. We're going to be using our large group instruction areas, auditoriums, like rooms like this are going to be opened up, and this is going to be cleared out, so it can be used either for classes and lunches. The idea is to spread kids out. We're also going to be using outdoor space when feasible, at least until the weather gets a little bit colder. So that is the plan for the lunches. It does look different in different buildings because of the building configurations and the amount of large group instruction areas and things like that. But as a general, that's the guidance that the principals have been given to work within, and they're working on the specifics of their individual plans.
Okay, great. Thank you. That's all I have.
Thank you. And we have one more that rose their hand before I made my announcement.
Mrs. Phelps, you're next.
Hi guys, Chris Ann Phelps, 2964 Lime Kiln Road. I promise I'll be brief.
Hi.
Hi, I'm looking at page 48 of the draft regarding in-person instruction. Once a case of coronavirus is identified either in a student or a staff member, the draft indicates that the areas that were occupied by that student or staff member are to be left empty for 24 hours. How do we determine what qualifies as the area? Is it the desk? Is it the classroom? The hallways, the cafeteria, the bathrooms? Where do we stop?
Okay, she's asking on page 48 of our plan for what we do when we discover a case of COVID, either in a staff member or a student. It says that areas the student or adult were in will be left empty for 24 hours and thoroughly sanitized by contracted staff provided with enhanced PPE. She wants to know how the area is determined. Is it that whole classroom? Is it a classroom and the bathroom that's closest to the classroom? If it's a student that is in 4 classes that day, is it all 4 of those classes plus wherever they had lunch?
What we're going to do as an administrative team is we're going to try to find out where that student was during the day. First, we start with the simple stuff by looking at their schedule, and certainly different levels kids are moving at different rates all over the building. We'll also be talking to the kid about where they were right then. If it's an older kid, where were you today? What bathrooms were you at? Et cetera, et cetera. We're going to use that information and then to try to determine where they were and then clean those areas.
And then where it says will be left empty for 24 hours, does that mean that a bathroom could have an out of order sign on it for the whole day?
Yes, mean that.
Does that answer your question, Ms. Phelps?
Mrs. Olafson, would you please ask for clarification? Would that also extend to a full classroom or the cafeteria or the hallways in which the student traveled?
Right. Will that also extend to...
All of the above, and let's be clear, when we do have a case, we're going to be talking to local health authorities, getting very clear guidance and clarification on the current best practice on exactly what we should do. So if it does happen, this is our current plan based on current guidance.
Thank you, Mr. Hurley.
Okay, any other questions?
No.
Okay, I do see that other people still had questions. If you still would like to make your comment at the end of the meeting, you will be welcome to when that time comes. But beyond that, and that's fine. One of the board members does have a question, but if you do have an issue that was not addressed here, as I said before, you can reach out to me, you can reach out to one of the administration. If it's specific and in the weeds for your students' specific school situation, you might want to reach out to their principal. Okay, Ms. Albright had a question.
Yeah, I just wanted to go along with Mr. Hurley giving the results of that survey. I had somebody email me. Do we know how many families, what percentage of families responded and which ones didn't?
Yeah, we ended up a very high percentage for a survey type of thing. We ended up with about 1,900 survey responses for this one, so it's a pretty good percentage when we look at the total. Usually, and as Dr. Cooper will attest to, they're not near that.
Like how many? Out of how many?
So we had 3,100 kids in the district, so that's a pretty good.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions from the board? Anything else to report, Dr. Cooper?
Madam President, that concludes my report.
Okay. All right. Now I need to find my spot here. We have, for any announcements, I have one agenda edit. Do any of the other board members, my agenda edit that I would like to make is that we will be having an executive session at the end of this meeting to discuss negotiations. Sorry, guys. And Ms. Haynes has an edit she would like to present, I believe.
It's down in section 5, personnel, number 2275, if you drill down by number. There's a motion to approve a individual for the administrative assistant to accounts payable. We're switching the name from Bonnie Holman to Kenneth Dixler.
What is the name again?
Kenneth Dixler. He's currently one of our coaches for volleyball.
Dixler?
Yeah.
Okay. Any other agenda edits?
Could you repeat that? Could you repeat that, please?
Yeah, Mr. Strobel wants us to repeat that. For under 5A 2275. Sarah? Motion to approve for administrative assistant for accounts payable and benefits and payroll. She wants to change the name to Kenneth Bixler. Same pay?
Okay.
Is that correct?
Yeah.
Same pay.
Gotcha. Thank you. And then one last thing is Dr. Cooper's presentation is still up on the Zoom meeting for what it's worth.
Oh. Thank you, Mr. Strobel. All right. So now we will be moving to finance. Does anybody want to make a motion for finance, and then we can discuss anything you want us to discuss, board?
Motion.
For finance 3A1 through 13? And do I have a second from Mr. Strobel? Okay. Any of the board want to ask any questions? A lot of it is just stuff that we need every year, renewable of a bunch of contracts. Really? Nobody wants to talk about any of this money we're spending?
I do want to add this for the fitness upgrade.
Yes.
And
Yeah, out of the cap. Go ahead.
And the HVAC is necessary to protect our equipment. And it just while we had the crane, we were going to go ahead and put over the top of the weight room. While the crane's there, it's so much cheaper to add. It's right in that same area to go ahead and purchase the air conditioning for those. But the main crux of that was because we're having all of our copy printing equipment is being just damaged by the heat. So number 9 it was a necessity. We added the two other pieces to it.
Yeah, Mr. Strobel just pointed out he is the chair of the facilities committee, and he was just pointing out that it was explained to us in the facilities committee that these upgrades need to happen to protect our investment in the equipment. And it's coming out of the capital budget, not the annual expense budget, or it will if it's approved. Does anybody have a problem with us voting on all 13 items at once? No other questions about any of the other expenditures spelled out? Mr. Scott?
Okay, question, finance 3A 1 through 13, Ms. Albright.
Yes.
Mr. Miller.
Yes.
Mrs. Bell.
Yes.
Mr. Strobel.
Yes.
Mr. B. Scott, yes. Ms. Leone.
Yes.
Ms. Olson.
Yes. Okay, under programs, can I get a motion for programs 4A, 1 through 7, leaving out the health and safety
Make
plan?
that motion.
Mr. Strobel made the first motion, second?
Question.
Oh, I apologize.
The motion to add myself, I can't vote for myself, can I? Should we pull that?
It's for the committees, it's not to add you to the board.
Right, I understand.
Oh, okay. I see what you're saying.
Yes, she can.
Yeah.
It's almost, and this is Brian Sewers.
Thank you, Mr. Subers. So we're good?
Yes.
So we'll, okay, do I have a second for 4A, no, yeah, 4A 1 through 7?
I'll second.
Mr. Miller seconded. Do we have any discussion on those 7 items?
I'll second.
Oh, we got a second already. I'm asking if we have any discussion.
Oh, excuse me.
That's okay. If we have no discussion on those, can we get a vote on them?
Okay, 4A1 through 4A7? Is that what we're saying?
Yes.
Okay. Mr. Miller?
Yes.
Mrs. Bell?
Yes.
Mr. Strobel?
Yes.
Mr. B. Scott, yes. Ms. Leone?
Yes.
Ms. Albright?
Yes.
Ms. Olson?
Yes. Okay, I would like to ask Mr. Subers a question, actually. You there still?
Yes, I am.
When we discuss the next item, do we have to put the motion to the rest of the board? Do we have to put the motion to the board with a choice selected and vote? And if that fails, choose a different selection and then vote again?
I would say that's one way of doing it. The plan needs to be adopted with the type of reopening specified.
Correct.
So I guess you could go with any one of the 4 and vote, have sufficient votes for that particular type of reopening you're proposing.
Julia,
Yes, sir.
as we get ready to vote for that, are we going to get the administration's recommendation? They spend a lot of time and effort on this and did a lot of research, and
Why don't
they're
we-
in discovery single day.
Since we can't discuss until we've made a motion, let's make a motion to approve the health, school, and safety plan as presented, have discussion, and then amend the motion to insert one choice before we vote. How about we do it like that?
That's fine.
Okay. Do I have a motion for all those things I said?
Motion.
I'll make it.
Ms. Bell, and a second from Mr. Strobel. Excellent. Okay. And to defer to Mr. Strobel's request, he would like to know what the recommendation of the administration is at this point.
Hey, based on, or as of July 27th at 9:09 p.m., our recommendation, and considering the guidance and the information that we have received from the task force and the collaborative effort there, from the information that continues to be updated and changed through the 5 organizations or agencies that I mentioned, the CDC, the World Health Organization, Department of Health at the state level, Department of Ed at the state level, and the American Association of Pediatrics. And keeping in mind our priority focus areas of the district, and the number one being health and safety of all, the recommendation would be a hybrid approach to opening the school year, which would be the scaffolded, the alternating days on the rotating weeks, blended model, AB.
Any discussion from the board beyond that recommendation?
Just a question, has that recommendation changed recently? It's not what I thought coming in. No, I haven't seen anything from the CDC. That's why I'm just curious as to if it's changed recently.
Based on the continuing changing information we got just towards the end of last week, that's where that comes from.
From who? Which new information?
From the Center of Disease Control and the health organizations and the Department of Ed. It was released on the 24th, I believe it was just released.
I believe
Mr. Hurley, was that updated on the 24th?
There was a massive update from the Department of Health and PD.
On the 18th?
I didn't see anything from the CDC. They were still recommending.
That just CDC guidance just came out at the end of last week.
There was CDC guidance on July 23rd,
That's
preparing K-12 school administrators for a safe return to school in fall 2020. Department of Health was July 16th.
Could you repeat?
Mr. Suber said that the CDC guidance for safe return to schools was released on July 23rd.
Dr. Cooper, I have a question. You said it's scaffolded, but then it looks like you described the blended.
Yes, I'm sorry.
No, I just want to make sure.
It's the blended reopening K-12 hybrid model would be the AB model.
The only way that I could vote for that would be that families with multiple children, and yes, I'm being selfish because I have 4, have to be on the same schedule. That's a non.
I mean, it's a board decision. I mean, we can make recommendations to administration, but it's a governance decision by the board of school directors. So.
Is the blended the one where the K-5 continues to go?
That's scaffolded.
No, it's back to scaffolded.
Blended is
All in all.
alternating weeks.
Mm-hmm. Any other comments from the board?
Yeah, I just wanted to know, since I have a child too, and the end of last year was very difficult.
Right.
He didn't do very well with online health. So I'm just wondering how we're going to support those families that have children like that are really going to struggle with that online component.
I think it should be a last resort.
Our model will look different than what it did at the conclusion of last year, which was an emergency remote environment where we were asked as a school entity to flip what we did for years and years in a 2-3 time period. There has been, throughout the process of the spring, our professional staff had the opportunity to be in that environment and learn some things, and will continue to be professionally developed and continuing learning to take place. That's where we're at. Again, it's a board decision, it's a governance decision, and that was our recommendation based on the safest possible for all staff and students.
I'm so curious as to where the guidance came from the highway, because looking at CDC, they basically say it's a local decision, and they're encouraging you to go back to school. So they're not recommending the hybrid approach. They're not recommending the real approach.
And again, the options from the Pennsylvania Department of Education are listed right here as options. In person, scaffolded, blended, and a total remote. This came right from the Department of Ed.
One thing I will say is that I would much rather choose to open school in a blended method, and then if things are going well and cases in the area continue to go down and we have no outbreaks here, and we then ramp up to coming to school 5 days a week. I would much rather be in that situation than to have kids come in 5 days a week at the outset and have to step back to a blended situation, a blended learning situation, because we are constantly having scares where...
The outbreak would be worse, actually. The outbreak would actually be worse, but going with a slow approach, crawl, walk, run, would be the most logical.
That's kind of...
Maybe not the most...
It's, as Mr. Strobel just said, it might not be the most convenient for parents or for any of us, actually, to do it this way, but to kind of walk before we run might be the most logical way to approach reopening school.
It does allow for reacclimation of the school setting, albeit it's not in the traditional sense. I don't think anything coming back in the plan is going to be traditional sense, as Ms. Albright put it at the beginning of the meeting. In-person instruction for our children and our students is going to look significantly different than in our traditional model in the past. So also, I do want to remind the board that this plan can also be open and adjusted at any time in the future, at future board meetings. So what is decided this evening as far as a plan of reopening can also be modified and adjusted moving forward in subsequent meetings.
Right. Right, as during the question and answer period, I believe Mr. Miller asked how quickly we could pivot from one approach to another, and we were told that it could happen relatively quickly. So we could vote to make a change and have it be implemented very quickly if the facts on the ground, both in the school and in the county, merited those changes. Go ahead.
I want to make a comment that if we went with the blended model where K through 5 is also put on a schedule to rotate, and the city does go to yellow, many people with kids in K to 5 will not have childcare.
Right. Right.
And I noticed also, and with that, I know I've spoken to some of the local child care centers, and they said it's going to be very hard for them to support that amount of kids if they need them, and if they have to support them with schooling of some kind during the day. So they have expressed that to me.
Because of the virus.
So the question has been, if they need childcare like that, why can't they be in school?
But we're a learning institution, not a child care institution. And I have sympathy for all those that have the problem, but we're here about teaching the kids.
Well, but we're either in a lockdown or we're not, right?
What did I say?
We're either in a lockdown and we're very serious, or we're not. And this is kind of a...
Well, the idea of blended learning is not to have the kids in a lockdown. It means to just reduce the number of vectors that you have to follow, and reduce the number of interactions that the students may have, reduce the number of students that might be in each of their classrooms, reduce the number of students that would be in each of their hallways,
Like some of the states that went full bore open, and now they're backing up because they went too fast, too quick. It's a measured approach. I mean, a week from now, there could be new reports that say we need to go full open, or maybe a month from now, the cases are going down, and we're not in a situation, we don't have an outbreak in our schools where we're closing 4 or 5 classrooms down. We could always open again. At the end of the day, to crawl, walk, run versus just jump in.
Well, I think you said two separate things. I agree that we have to be fluid and change at the moment, so we should be voting on where we are today.
Well, you see, I mean, if you look at the last 14 days in Berks County, they're not great. You know, it's, we're above 50 cases per 100,000 people.
But the bars is closed 2 weeks ago. A big part of the spike was between the 20 and 40-year-olds that were out of the bars. And that's true, and we might.
It's a great example of what we're talking about, opening everything up and letting it just go crazy wild, or just taking a measured approach. That's a great point to make.
I don't think we're making that decision. I think that's being a higher power. I don't think by opening our school, we're making the decision to let it run rampant. I think we're one element of a greater picture of the state as a whole. I think if the state as a whole said we're back in red and we can't go to school, we've obviously followed that guideline.
Right.
I can share the latest metric. The latest metric that was shared as far as an update in the past 14 days, a 14-day total in Berks County of 325 new cases. And the opening metric requisite for the governor was 210. So our last 14 days was 325.
Had nothing to do with the spike. As I said, they should just, that's why I put mandates back in place about 10 days ago. To wear masks and to close the bars.
That is true.
Yeah, I mean, just given the...
No, I see it every day. I'm following it.
Does anybody else on the board have comments or
One
questions?
thing to say that I learned also, we have to keep in mind when we're talking about even a blended situation, that we're down, schools will be down 33% typically, so it's going to be a little bit better than, if it were completely wide open. Also, I want to mention, because I'm getting emails now too, that there are people online who are commenting about not being heard, and I know we said that, I just want to repeat to them that we're making a recommendation tonight. It's going to change, but we will hear possibly the people after the end of the meeting.
Mm-hmm.
I'm getting killed already, so.
Yeah.
But I just want to make sure that they know they're going to be heard. I'm sorry, I couldn't hear you, your masks. Thank you.
Any other comments from the board? Does somebody want to make a motion for one of the 4 options?
I make a motion that we follow what the admin recommendation is. Do a full blended.
Okay. Do I have a second in order to facilitate a vote on that?
That's the recommendation. I can't hear him.
Yeah, I apologize. He made the motion to approve the health and safety plan with the box checked for blended learning.
Okay, so it's the second plan.
Yeah, do we have a second for that?
It's the
Third plan listed on page 5.
They're being used interchangeably.
Yeah, I think that like you have had.
I said blended.
But the scaffold is the K through 5, still continue to go, and the middle school and high school would be on a rotating basis. The blended is all grades go on
4
rotation,
days. And then they have the next week off.
all grades.
Mm-hmm.
Now, during that next week, do they, can they do the remote?
It would be
It's
asynchronous.
online. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, do I have a second to vote on that?
I'll second.
And if there are no more comments, we'll have Mr. Scott.
Scott,
Can I make a comment?
Mm-hmm. Before we vote, Dr. Cooper would like to make a comment.
Again, I want to bring the fact up that based on continuing information that we get, and as I indicated in my report, that the likelihood of us continuing to see increased changes and adjustments to the guidance will continue to be expedited and increasing in nature. That this plan is subject for, again, alterations or adjustments moving forward at the discretion of the board. So it can be opened up and voted upon again should the situations change. So I just wanted to make that clear. Thank you.
Oh, also, just for the record, I mean, I've just got something again about the kids. Obviously, you're going to try your best when you have families that, you know, with multiple kids, multiple schedules. I know that's the last thing Rob wants to hear, but it's
That's legitimate.
that's
it is.
that's going to be big. Because I mean, you know, they're going to. It's going to be tough. I mean, I have a number. I still have a couple, 3. Sorry, do my math. My wife will probably get mad at me after that comment. But yeah, it's going to be a lot easier. Obviously, we're on the same schedule. So do we want to vote on this now?
Yeah.
Okay. So just so I'm clear, it's the third plan, it's the blended plan.
Right.
Okay. So Ms. Albright.
No.
Okay. Mr. Miller.
No.
Mrs. Bell.
No.
Mr. Strobel.
Yes.
Okay, Mr. E. Scott. I'm going to say yes. Ms. Leone.
No.
Ms. Olson.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, motion
4 noes,
failed.
3 yeses.
Okay, do we want to discuss more, or do we want to make a motion for one of the other options?
I'll make a motion for the first option.
Okay, for total reopen?
Yep.
I'll second.
Okay. Any further discussion?
Actually, you make a point that we're going against what the board, what the administration wants, and they do it
You
every
realize
day.
that, Kevin. You've
They're
made that
reading these
clear.
things every single day. We hired them to run the school, and we're just going against what they say. I think it needs to be mentioned.
One thing I will mention when it comes to a scaffolded reopening, I know that wasn't an option.
Are we in the middle of voting for this?
Oh, we just made a motion to,
It wasn't seconded?
yeah, and
Okay.
now we're moving on to
Okay.
discussion on that one, yeah.
Well, no, you're talking about scaffolding now, so I didn't know.
Correct, and I wanted to make a point that was not made before. One thing that has come out from the different studies that have been done, both I think the American Association of Pediatrics and also a study out of South Korea, I'm pretty sure it was. What's that?
There's a Europe.
And a European one, was that the idea behind, the science behind a scaffolded reopening would be that there is less chance of contracting COVID as an adult from a child under 10, and there's more chance of getting it from a child above 10 and as an adult, and for children above 10 to contract it from each other. And also, if we had a scaffolded reopening, the issues that we talked about with childcare, with the elementary school, kind of go. There wouldn't be issues with childcare for those students, and then you'd only have to worry about making sure that your students were on the same schedule through the middle and high school, because everybody everybody at the elementary schools would be in school all day.
And I totally understand that, and
I don't know if we had discussed that originally.
I understand that. I think that we have to, like that, I'm the first to tell you that school is not meant to be daycare or childcare. I will advocate that left and right, but it's also a reality that if you're telling me you can't guarantee that my older kids can be there to get my kindergartner, and I'm at another school that's actually going to school, then that's not doable for me, and I'll never vote for it. And then if you're saying, well, we're going to take all the little kids back and have the older kids do online, how about those AP kids? They're not going to sit there and teach themselves. I mean, it was hard enough in the spring. Those AP classes need to be in person. I mean, I'm only speaking for my personal situation, but I think it applies to a lot of people as well.
All right. Any other comments on this before we vote?
No, I think guess the obvious thing again is what I was told earlier was that they were down 33%. So even if we're here 5 days a week,
67% capacity, yeah.
yeah, we're only at 67%. So that's positive. I mean, you know, that's something to keep in mind. And I think we have to make it clear for everyone that's listening to us that this could change. This could change tomorrow. This could change within a week. And I think it's tough on us too.
We're assuming our plan is to assume that 33% of the people aren't going to take the advantage of what we're voting for. It's kind of odd, but I'm good.
Well, they're not going to do Wednesday, they're going to go online.
That's what they said.
No, I wasn't going to say that.
I'm all about the
He's
survey.
saying 30, the number 30, whatever percent that we're assuming won't come is odd, but we got that 37% by the results of the survey that Mr. Hurley gave us. We didn't just come up with 37%.
Oh, yeah. And that could change.
That's
No,
right.
yeah, Kevin, they
And
would've voted for online.
It's not that it's odd. We're voting on.
Various-
It's not that it's odd. It's not that it's odd. We're voting on the fact that it's going to be less people because 33% said they're not coming. But we're voting for. It's all good. Let's just move forward with the vote. I'm good.
Okay. Any
I
other
apologize.
comments?
Well, even if we voted to reopen it, and the state, various agencies said, you can't go to school, then they have to follow that.
Mhm. And
Correct.
the
I got you.
folks that said that they would choose an online option no matter what we did, that's what they told us. That's not people that have solidified their commitment. It could be a larger percentage, it could be a smaller. Yeah, okay.
But it will be a decreased amount.
Oh, agreed.
Right.
Okay, any other comments?
All right, you want me to
Yep,
take a vote? Okay.
yes, sir.
Ms. Albright.
Yes.
Mr. Miller.
Yes.
Mrs. Bell.
Yes.
Mr. Strobel.
No.
Mr. B. Scott. I'm going to probably go against what I just said, but I'll go with yes. Ms. Leone.
Yes.
Ms. Olson.
No.
So
we will, so I just want to tell people listening, right now, we are sending in tomorrow, we will be sending our health and safety plan to the Pennsylvania Department of Education, where we will be checking the box for total reopen for all students and staff. But some families, students and families, will be opting for distance learning out of safety or health concerns. Understanding that if anything changes, we will change it. You'll get notice, but we might, when we meet again on the 10th, it might be different. I really do hope that the number of cases in the state go down, or in the county. Okay, so we're going to move on from there to personnel. And do I have a motion for 5A 1 through 3 with the edit we did at the beginning of the.
I'll make that motion with the edit for Kenneth Spixler.
Okay. Do I have a second?
For what?
You made a motion? I'll second.
For what?
5A 1 through 3 with the agenda edit to change Bonnie Holman's name to Kenneth Bixler, which is under.
But the 5 under 7.
Yeah, number 2275. Any discussion of any of those? Hearing none, can we get a vote?
Sure. Ms. Albright.
Yes.
Mr. Miller.
Yes.
Ms. Bell.
Yes.
Mr. Strobel?
Yes.
Mr. B. Scott, yes. Ms. Leone?
Yes.
And Ms. Olson?
Yes.
All right.
Do we have-
Madam President, could I say something, please?
Yes.
I would like to recognize the board just approved the appointment of Mr. Ron Flowers, who's in the boardroom here as the district's newly appointed Director of Community Relations and Equity Awareness. So I'd like to welcome him to the administrative team in that role, and very much looking forward to his anticipated contributions in that role for the district moving forward. So, congratulations.
Thank you for coming.
Oh, thank you very much. Appreciate it.
I was waiting for you to talk, I didn't know you were there.
I was allowed to.
You know you have to be here for every meeting now, right?
As long as two.
That was the fine print.
As a point of order, do we have to vote to approve the enrollment numbers?
No.
Mr. Subers? Are you still with us, Mr. Subers?
Yes, I am. I had to remove myself. That's just an informational item.
So we don't have to have a vote on that?
No.
All right, thank you, sir. All right, so moving on to old business 7A1, which is the minutes. Do I have a motion for that?
Motion.
Do I have a second? Okay. Ms. Bell and Mr. Miller second. Any discussion? We have a vote.
Okay, I just got an email, so I'm sorry, I just lost track. So we're,
We are 7A1.
okay. Thank you, sorry.
That's all right.
Okay, Mr. Miller?
Yes.
Mrs. Bell?
Yes.
Mr. Strobel?
Yes.
Mr. B. Scott, yes. Ms. Leone?
Yes.
Ms. Albright?
Yes.
Ms. Olson?
Yes. Now we're going to move on to presentations by the public on issues, except I'm going to take some prerogative. I'm not going to make it through them all, so I'm going to adjourn really quickly. Give me 5 minutes. Sorry, everybody.
Quickly.
Let me know.
Okay, thank you. I'll work on that payment tomorrow.
Thank you.
But now that's a new one. No bathroom break.
You're always quick when you do it. It's okay. You're good.
Is this, who is,
Yep.
That's a good idea.
Yep.
I did turn this off. Just, I'll turn it back on.
Okay, to the folks listening, we have almost everybody back. Sorry to make you wait.
When you're ready to start, just unmute yourself again. I muted you guys when you adjourned.
What am I supposed to do?
When you're ready to start, just unmute. I muted it when you
Okay.
adjourned.
Oh, when I spoke into the microphone just now, they didn't hear me? When I spoke into the microphone just now, they didn't hear me? That is correct. Excellent. Good thing I don't know the difference. We're just waiting on one more.
So I don't figure it.
Waiting on. Did you turn it on? Did you turn it on? Oh, okay. You're doing it. Okay. Did you turn it on? I turned it on. I'm going to unmute now, guys. Okay, everybody on the call, I am sorry about that. And I'm going to ask Mr. Matz to call on the first raised hand.
The next individual with their hand raised is identified as Jen.
Okay. One thing I will say before Jen starts, we have turned on the 3-minute timer. Since it's not a question period in its comments, if you just keep your comments to 3 minutes. And Jen, you're on.
Sure. Are you able to hear me?
We are.
Okay, thank you. My question is in regards to when the students have returned to school. If there is a suspected case of COVID, whether it be a student or a teacher, how exactly is that going to be communicated with families? And looking at page 56 of your health and safety plan, obviously the student will be, or teacher would be quarantined, parents would be contacted, obviously they would go home, Department of Health, would be contacted immediately, but test results don't always come immediately. So, another person had asked earlier, what would happen in terms of, the area being cleaned and for what period of time. But my question is more so, how will we know in a reasonable amount of time if it is indeed a positive case, and how will this be communicated with families while still upholding HIPAA? And I did forget to give my name, Jennifer Augustine, 235.
Thank you.
The challenge there, at first, we would be reaching out to families, but the real thing we're going to be doing is reaching out to the health officials when we have a suspected case of COVID. In terms of the timing of the testing, we can't control that in terms of how fast that gets back. But we'll be working hand in hand with health officials for guidance if we have a suspected case. Keep in mind, we also have nurses who have some expertise in this area, and they'll be able to help us to some degree.
So there will be a dissemination between a suspected case in the school and a confirmed case in the school. And that information will be...
Everything is confirmed.
Pardon me?
You almost have to treat each case as potential. I mean, as it goes down, to err on the side of better judgment, it's going to be a challenge.
When we have a suspected case, we will be reaching out to the health officials at the state level and county level, if we have people to reach out to then, and then we will go forward the way they do, but the way they suggest. But I agree that you have to treat a suspected case gets treated the same as a confirmed case until you have confirmation, I guess. Is that a fair statement, Mr. Hurley?
It depends on the situation.
I see.
And for example, on page 34 in the plan, it says, and we were working with our nurses with this particular piece, it's staff and students with a fever or symptoms that may be associated with COVID-19 and no direct exposure to a person with COVID-19 may return to school when they're asymptomatic and have been fever-free for at least 24 hours without the use of fever-reducing medicine or have confirmation of an alternative diagnosis from a healthcare professional that explains the COVID-19 symptoms. And I believe they got that from CDC is exactly where I believe they got that from.
Okay.
And we were working with our nurses, in particular 2 nurses when we were developing the language.
Okay, I apologize if my misspeaking confused anyone out there. Please listen to Mr. Hurley and not me.
And any particular student's name wouldn't be released. It would just be, the exposure would be communicated, but not specific student information.
And if anyone had any doubts as to who that was, that's our counsel.
What did he say?
He said that HIPAA would prevent us from releasing specific information about students or teachers who were confirmed. Next. Thank you.
The next individual is identified as Bridget.
Bridget?
Okay, we'll move on to the next individual, John Shield.
Hi.
Hello. So, quick question regarding temperature checks. I had read, I guess, in the draft that it would be up to the parents to make sure temperature checks are being done. Will the school not be doing any checks as students come in the buildings?
Correct. One of the, can you give me 1 second? I apologize. One of the things that we authorized today was the purchase of an app which has the ability to be used on a smartphone or on a computer, which will allow you to put that information, to do the checks for your students daily. Can I ask Mr. Hurley to give a little bit more detail?
Yeah, and it's not on the agenda, the purchase of that app yet.
Oh, I apologize.
But we've been researching this, and we're in the progress. We're negotiating with the company in terms of pricing for it. But what we're trying to do is we're going to ask each family. The goal is to have it's really a community response here in order to get the kids back in school. And we need help from parents each morning to take the child's temperature, as well as making sure they're meeting the different symptoms, making sure they're not hitting any of those things. And we need their help every day to check that and verify that before the kids get on the bus and before the kids enter the building. The goal being to prevent the illness as much as possible from entering the building itself. And that little piece there, for example, we have a questionnaire right now that we're doing by paper, and we've already received a few people from like quarantine states, for example, that have been prevented from coming into our building as a result of that. And so that's really the purpose behind it. We are going to ask parents to help us out with that. If a parent does not have the means to do a temperature check, we're going to ask them to reach out to the nurse for some reason if they can't afford it or they don't have a thermometer or something of that nature. We'll deal with them on a case-by-case basis. But that we are going to ask parents to do that.
Okay, so is that going to be like a go, no-go attendance kind of thing that, if a parent misses the temperature check, they're going to come find you in the school and take the temperature? Or?
He's
Like, how is it
asking,
going to be enforced?
okay, thank you. He's asking that if a parent misses a temperature check, will that student be pulled down to the nurse's office? Will just a note go home that day?
Yeah, our current process that we'll do is we'll probably call the parent, but we'll probably have the nurse do the temperature check. And if there's a mistake there, we'll have the nurse do it right there and do the symptom check with the student before permitting the student from going further. And then we'll probably reach out to the parent and just remind them in the future, try to get that done at home.
Okay. And then I did have one more quick question. Sorry.
Okay.
So with the masks that I guess the school is going to be providing, are they disposable masks or are they going to be like cloth washable ones? That
They
parents
are
need to
cloth.
keep up, or?
They are cloth washable ones. If you, of course, within certain limits of content, your child does not have to use that one. If you have another one that they want to use, if you would rather have your kid use a disposable one, that is fine. But we are providing that PPE that is washable at the beginning of the school year.
Okay. That was it then. Thank you.
Thank you. Next.
The next individual is identified as owner.
Okay, owner. Maybe not.
Being a response.
We can
next
come back to
individual
them if they have to.
Is Jennifer Cook.
Hello?
Hello, can you hear me?
I can.
It's Jennifer Cook from 203 Windmead Lane. My question is in regards to, there's a reference to an app for the temperatures. My question is it going to be available in a different route? The person that watches my son is my mother-in-law and is not a tech savvy, does not have data on a phone or anything. Is there going to be another option provided for her to input before he leaves for school?
Her question is if there is an issue with someone who is sending a kid off to school being lacking in some tech savvy, will there be like an alternative option to an app to do that temperature check-in at the beginning of the day every
That's
day?
a fair question, and yes, there will be, and so you guys did when people came here tonight, we have a paper version of the questionnaire that people will be returning with their child every day, so that's how we're going to address that.
So there will be another option for anybody who needs it. That's just something we're probably going to have to figure out like the first couple days of school.
And my second question with that is there a time that it can be done by? Like if I go to, it can be done at like 6 a.m. prior to me leaving work, or 6:30, or my child is in elementary school, or is that too far from the time that he's expected in school? Is there a particular time frame that they're looking for?
I guess the time that it resets, we haven't chosen it because we haven't chosen the outlet yet. I guess we'll have to wait until we decide what to see what the particulars when we drill down for that particular item. If it like resets every night at midnight, or if it doesn't reset until like half an hour before school starts, we might be able to have some functionality where we can choose when it resets for the next day. But we won't know that for a little bit, I think.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, I'm sorry to
Bridget.
jump in here. This is Bridget.
Hi.
Hi, I'm so sorry.
That's okay.
Speaking of not being tech savvy, I was
Bridget,
waiting for someone to unmute.
can I get the last name and address?
Yes, my name's Bridget Sconia. I'm 2114 Weavertown Road.
Bridget Sonia from Weavertown Road. Go ahead.
I just wanted to first make a comment that if the option in the survey for the parents, if the option for the hybrid was in there, I think so many of the parents that I spoke to would have selected that, including myself. I actually picked both of them. I have two children. Because the hybrid I think, would be one of the better options because there is less interaction, but our children still have the socialization with the other kids. So I'm so sorry that I didn't get to express that before your vote came through. because I do speak with a lot of other parents in the district, and I do know that if that was an option on the survey, that your numbers would be a lot different. My question is, and I don't want to throw a wrench into things, but has there been any discussion for spreading the kids out of using our current buildings that we still upkeep as far as APC and BEC to spread the kids out more? And I realize that that is like enormously a financial decision, but just as far as spreading the kids out more and maybe taking a leap and maybe taking some more money from the government to get us to spread this out, because I feel like we're more fortunate than many other districts to have these buildings to be able to do something like that.
Okay, one thing I will say is that APC, we currently rent that out to, lease that out to another education providing entity. So they have their own kids there that they provide care to, and at the moment, I think that they are planning.
Isn't that just like half the building now? Like,
but the half of the building that they use is the first floor, and the top floor is not handicapped accessible.
okay.
Yeah, and as for, we do have somebody who's leasing part of the Birdsboro building, but not the whole thing. So that is something that I guess could be looked at. Thank you. Did you have any other questions?
No, that was just, I really wanted to make my main point about the hybrid.
I understand, and thank you for.
If there was another, survey that went out to parents, I promise you that your numbers would be different from either or. So, but I do appreciate all of the hard work that all of you are doing. I think that this is such a trying time, and I thank you guys for everything that you do.
Thank you. A couple more?
Next individual is the governor has their hand raised again, so we'll unmute.
Hello.
Hello.
Hi.
Can I ask you to give me your name and your address? Hello? Maybe we'll get back and go with Megan?
Can you hear me?
Oh, yes.
Okay.
Can I get you to give me your name and address?
I'm sorry, Mary Ann Baker, 714 North Monocacy Creek Road.
Thank you. Go ahead.
I have a question. Due to my son having asthma, I have to go through the virtual learning. Who can I reach out to? I have concerns about his IEP, and I'm still a little confused of the virtual, if it's going to be DB teachers or it's going to be a whole nother entity in itself.
I'm going to throw that over to Mr. McKnight. Did you? She's asking if she's going virtual, if she's making the decision to go virtual, and her child has an IEP, who should she reach out to?
Okay, so if the child has an IEP, she should be talking to Mrs. Minkowski and working through the Office of Special Education. I think the second part of her question was, will it be our teachers?
Yeah.
So yes, it will. There will be the option in the digital blended learning environment. Will be the day with teachers at the end of grade. No, she's choosing the online learning only because her child is immune compromised. So. They will either be facilitated by the able teacher or will be completely able teachers.
Okay. Does that answer your question for now?
What's the difference there? What's that?
What's the difference between taught by and facilitated by?
Yeah.
If they go to the Daniel Boone or the Blazer Virtual Learning Academy,
correct.
That's our partnership with Edgenuity, and Edgenuity will be that curriculum, but we will be having Daniel Boone teachers facilitating and making sure there's a connectivity piece to our school community.
So he would still get the one-on-one that's required for his IEP.
would he still get the one that was required by his IEP? I don't, I
That would
think
be
that
a
we
question
were
for
getting
Mrs.
into the
Mikowski.
weeds where we would need to speak to Mrs. Mikowski.
Correct.
Okay, so I want to reach out to her,
Right,
the IEP question.
yeah. Did you have any other more general questions that we might be able to address?
No, I'll reach out to her.
Okay, thank you very much. Couple more?
Next, we have Megan Hollis.
Hello?
Hi, thank you for hearing me again. Megan Ollis at 18 Terry Court. I was curious if you could tell us how many parents, like what percentage of parents in the district completed the survey?
I thought that we had that question answered already, but like, if you could just repeat
It
it.
was over 1,800 parents.
Out of how many though?
Out of?
3,100?
So about half. What is? Yeah, still, you're missing quite a few. 1,300 parents are a lot. Still, we were given only 2 options for the survey instead of all 4, as I believe Bridget was just saying. What is the chance that you are going to be sending out a follow-up survey with all options so that you can truly hear the voices of the parents and teachers within the district?
Certainly, we could follow up, send a follow-up survey out to the parents if that is an option for our board if they wish like us to further survey the community. We can do that.
I mean, as a board, you guys are working to do the best for our district, so I would think that you would want our needs to be met as best as possible, and all children need that social interaction. So a hybrid option is definitely the best option for everybody. The kids get a little bit of both, and then the parents who are too concerned with COVID can keep their kids home full time. I realize that working families, we are one of them where both parents work. Finding daycare is going to be a challenge. I just feel like we have our best chance with doing a hybrid option. My next question has left me, so I'm so frustrated right now. I'm sorry. I do appreciate that this is a very trying time for everybody across the board, and to make any kind of decisions are difficult and stressful for everyone. But like I said, I can't remember what the heck my second question was, but thank you for answering.
Okay, if you do remember later on, and you want to reach out, my email address is on the school website.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Julia, I have a question. In regards to Megan's question, if I understand this correctly, even though the board decided to go with a full back-to-school option, the hybrid option is still available for those that want to. They can go. Is that correct?
No.
Or is it either online or in school? There's no back and forth.
No. If by the time we open, what we've submitted to the state is still, if we haven't made a change to it, the option will be to be going to school 5 days a week, or to be going to the Blazer Learning Academy for online only.
Okay. Thank you for clarifying.
However, if we choose to make a change to it at any time, to a hybrid or a scaffolded, that would change, obviously.
Right.
Okay. Okay. So we have a couple more hands.
I see Ms. Hollis' hand raised again, so I don't know if the last question came from her mic.
Yes, I remembered. Mother brain.
Okay.
For the online option, when will we know if they will be Daniel Boone teachers instructing our children or other teachers?
Okay. Sometime in the next week, there will be a chance for through either a meeting here at one of the schools or an online meeting, a Zoom meeting, to learn more about that option. If you're and I would encourage people, even if you're just thinking about it, you can listen in on what that option is about. We should have a better idea at that meeting whether those will be Daniel Boone teachers or not. Doesn't mean. Yeah, go ahead.
Sorry.
No, you
I was
go.
just saying, I just would like to know definitely one way or the other before I make my decision.
I understand. And when we have that meeting, you won't have to make a decision for a certain amount of time after that. I agree that I would like people to be able to make a decision knowing with certainty, as much as certainty as any of us can have, right? Of what's going on. I mean, I know it's an important part of whether or not you're going to make a decision to go one way or another.
Right. Okay, thank you.
The next individual is identified as Miss Katie.
Miss Katie?
Hi, my name's Katie Shield. I'm at 1123 Old Sweet Road in Douglasville. I just had a couple questions because I actually work at a daycare in the surrounding area that would be busing to school, and I have a kindergartner and a fourth grader. So as far as the kindergarten aspect, if you were to open fully 5 days a week and then, God forbid, something happens again, would there be an option for kindergartners to go full day online?
Can you repeat that scenario to me again?
So my son's going into kindergarten, and I understand it's half day still if they go full time, correct? Depending on where they qualify.
Yeah, one or the other, correct.
Okay, if goodness forbid schools were to shut down, would there be an option for him to get what he would be missing? Like to go full day?
You mean in an online setting? I'm not sure. When we did half day last year, the half day kids, yeah. Go ahead.
I mean, our online version in an all remote environment, if the district would have to go that direction, would be similar to what it was last spring. However, the instruction would be from a more synchronous environment than it was last spring, so it was more emergency and transitioning from something traditional to online, where we had to get our professional staff professionally developed in that platform. So we're at a better space now, so the instruction would be more synchronous. The schedule for an online environment, all virtual environment, would be similar to that, the way it was elementary versus secondary. We know that a student is not going to be able to sit there in a synchronous environment, whether they're elementary or secondary for an 8-hour day. So there's X number of minutes or hours, a couple hours of synchronous versus followed up with office hours and so on and so forth, on an alternating basis.
Did that answer your question?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
And hi, my name is Michael Shield. I'm her husband. Just one quick question. If we start school full in person and decide that we want to go to virtual, even before the school decides to go virtual, will we be able to go back to school, or are we stuck with virtual at that point? Are we able to kind of, not necessarily flip-flop week to week, but if we start seeing a spike after we've already decided we're going to send our kids full go, and then say, okay, well now we're starting to see spikes, whether it's with sports or whether it's with the school itself, and then go virtual, are we able then to say in 2 weeks or 3 weeks go back to in class, or are we stuck with virtual?
No, you'd be able to make a change. There might be some transition period that, like you said, it might not be that you can change on a dime, like 1 week here, 1 week there, but we would work with Blazer Learning Academy to come up with a logical point for the transition to occur for that student.
Okay.
Okay? Got a couple more.
Make sure my wife's good.
Oh.
Just another question, sorry. So me working at a daycare that is associated with Daniel Boone, doesn't necessarily follow the schedule. I know it was kind of asked before and things would be flexible, but I know like a lot of parents do still have to work, and my center doesn't require like all the technology to be able to have kids be able to get on. Would it be like really like on the kids to come home after like their parents work all day and log on and get these assignments taken care of?
I would think that a student that was in that situation, their parents would have to work with us, work with the principal and the teachers to come up with a way to make that work for the student. I understand that it's a real concern for people, and it's it feels like the sort of thing that an accommodation could probably be made, but I think it would have to be between the teachers at that school and the parents.
Okay, thank you, that's all.
Yeah. Got a couple more?
Next individual is identified as Swartwood.
Hello? Nope.
We'll move on to Matt and Tyler Ferenz.
Hi there.
Hi.
Hi, this is Linda Ferenz again, at 106 Victoria Drive. I'm sorry to perseverate on this, but I'm just really not sure what the protocol is for a child that is sick. And I'll start at a common cold again. Typically, when my children have colds without a fever, I send them to school because you can't take off school for a common cold. You can't take off work for a common cold. However, now that we're in the COVID age, if they have a common cold, I'm going to have to keep them home. And if that cold goes on for longer than 3, 4, 5, 7, up to 14 days in some cases, I have to keep them home because they're displaying the signs of COVID. There is no nurse at a school that can say whether it's COVID or not, as good as they are. Only a test can say whether it's COVID or not. So I'm worried that they're going to miss out with learning. So my question is, or my request is, can you please consider having the lessons that are taught in school recorded or on a Zoom meeting? The teachers have smart boards. It would be less work for them because they're going to have a lot of students out, most likely. So they don't have to make alternative plans. They don't have to put videos on. You don't have to go to Khan Academy to learn something. They can record their lessons in school, and then the children can just learn from what they're actually teaching in school to the other students who are well in at school.
It is an option to record them.
That brings up quite a bit of.
It's not as, it's not as clean, it's not as clean as what you're requesting or asking. So it's difficult to be able to provide an answer. I don't know if that was a question or if it was a comment.
It was kind of a question and a comment, but you can do that without videotaping recording the other students in the classroom. Especially if it's coming from a smart board, you can present that on a Zoom meeting without the students being on the Zoom meeting. I think you're going to find a lot of students that are going to be out sick because they can't differentiate between COVID and a common cold.
I think that is probably true. And as earlier board member Ms. Albright mentioned, this is not going to be a normal year. It is going to be a situation where many parents will be asked to err on the side of caution and keep their kids home when maybe they wouldn't have in the past, and I'm aware of that. You know,
I think there needs to be a plan in place. One, what are you going to do when the students have these common colds and are missing 7, 14, 21 days of school?
But you answered the question yourself, that I believe, that when you said that no one, barring a negative test, no one is going to be able to tell you one way or another if that is a case of the flu, a cold, a really bad sinus infection, or COVID-19. So we and every other school district are going to be asking parents to be erring on the side of caution and keep their kids home if they exhibit those symptoms.
Right. So typically those students would go to school with a common cold, but now they are not permitted. And so they're going to be missing out on school that they typically would be receiving in a standard year, in a typical year.
Yeah, and I hear your what you're presenting as an option to create that more of a more continuity for those students, and I do hear that, and so as far as what learning is going to be available for kids when they stay home, whether it's for a well quarantine or for when they are ill, we will keep your comments in mind.
Thank you. And then another suggestion, I don't think that everybody is going to take the temperatures of their children, and that's just reality. So I don't know if there's any way to provide thermometers to the homeroom teachers to take the temperatures of the students that they have. They are going to have lesser students in their classrooms because of the separation. So
I hear you, and I am going to say that your the 3 minutes for your comments are up, but I will answer the current guidance that I saw most recently on the 17th of July, and it might change from the State Department of Education and the State Department of Health, is that they are not recommending that temperatures be taken temperatures be taken and symptoms being checked in the buildings there, suggesting that parents do it for them. That is the recommendation that I saw. So, and that's what we have in our plan. So okay. I just wanted to address that.
Yeah, that's fine. We can always go above and beyond though, right?
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you to everybody.
Next individual, Smartwood.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Thank you. I'm sorry I missed my turn last time.
That's okay. You are?
221 Berkshire.
Okay.
I would also like to mention that if the hybrid were an option, we definitely would have made that selection as well, for sure, in the survey. The question I have kind of revolves around the closing down of a classroom and other areas for cleaning the 24-hour period. Thinking that that's being done once a case of COVID has been confirmed. What are the other steps in place or plans to take care of or address all of the other people that one student has come in contact with?
You're talking about contact tracing?
Yeah, I suppose so, right, because you've exactly, if you shut down the room for 24 hours, but you still have a classroom of students and a bus full of students and a bus driver that they've come in contact with, what would be done with those people then as well?
Yeah, okay. I will ask Mr. Hurley to address that question.
Okay, if I heard everything, it's difficult to hear, obviously.
Yeah, it's the question was
contact tracing.
Yeah, how because we've already said how we handle each of the rooms and spaces that student or staff member were in, as far as how to disinfect those areas and to leave them empty for 24 hours, but how do we deal with that contact tracing?
Yeah, that's a good question. And what Berkshire County has partnered with the community organization. They've subbed it out to them, a group that does contact tracing for COVID or suspected COVID cases. We would work hand in hand with them on the process of contact tracing. One of the things we're doing internally is making sure we're keeping good records of where kids are at. That becomes very important so that we can reach out and we can provide that information to the trained contact tracers from the county should an incident occur. And those people would then contact the families individually if they have instructions in regards to quarantine and things of that nature.
Right, and then the assumption, I guess, then would be that anyone that person that's been confirmed with the COVID, anyone that they've come in contact with, then would have to be quarantined or kept home for 2 weeks. Then
He's asking that if anybody who has been confirmed to be in contact with that person would have to be quarantined for 14 days.
And we'll leave that up to the county people in regards to that, but my understanding of the guidelines that they face, and this is not my area of expertise, is that if they've had contact and the amount of contacts, that the amount of time that contact occurred is how that kind of decision making is made.
Okay?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yep.
The last individual is identified as Jen.
Hello?
Hello.
Hi.
Hi. Jen Batham, 204 Penn's Lane.
Okay.
I just had a concern regarding the survey. It was very limited in choices, and I know that many parents were interested in the hybrid option, but because the survey only listed either brick and mortar or virtual, a lot of parents weren't sure really what to select to indicate that hybrid was an option that they were considering. And I know many of us reached out to principals and spoke with superintendents, but we really didn't have a chance to express that that was something we were interested in based on the survey. I guess I just wonder if that had been an option, would that have impacted the vote that you made today? If you were to see that a lot of parents were interested in the hybrid option?
Me, I voted yes to the hybrid option.
And I already stated that I would have voted yes to the hybrid option, but you can't tell families you're not guaranteeing that everybody in their family is not going to be on the same schedule.
Right. And even, is that something that could be weighed in? Like, if families could be on the same schedule, would that be something that we could look into and possibly consider in the future, or no?
The board has the opportunity, anytime up until a couple weeks before the beginning of school, and at any time after school has started, we can take a step back from 5 days brick and mortar and step back to a hybrid model or to a scaffolded model or to online only learning. We can make that decision at any time if facts on the ground warrant it.
Okay, so that could be something that possibly the district could come back and say, they could work their best to try to have families on the same model or on the same schedule and possibly have that, change.
Yeah, I understand what you're saying. Yeah, that could happen.
Okay, and one other question. In terms of the virtual option, right now our only choice really is full-time brick and mortar or the BVA, which is taught by teachers that are hired through Edgenuity, correct?
Mm-hmm. Correct.
Okay. So I guess my question is, I know as a district, we want our students to stay with BVA as opposed to considering another cyber school because of the extra expense that costs the district. So I guess I'm wondering, what is the advantage to BVA as opposed to another cyber school, since it isn't taught by Daniel Boone teachers?
I'm going to have Mr. McKnight answer that
Thank you,
question.
Mr. President McKnight. One of the advantages is that your children remain integrated in all the school possibilities much more easily, remain part of this community, participate in every activity that the district offers, whereas when they move on to an outside partner, there's some limitations to that. So it depends on what that cyber charter offers outside the district as to whether or not they can participate in things within the district. So if your student is a participant in the Blazer Virtual Academy, they're a Daniel Boone student in every aspect that we would have, just as if they were brick and mortar.
Okay, but they're not in contact with actual Daniel Boone teachers, though, correct?
That's correct, if they're in the full Blazer Virtual Academy.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. We have Ms. Hicks. Hello.
I just want to speak on behalf of the teachers. We spent a lot of time discussing safety precautions, and I want the members of the community and parents that are still in attendance at the meeting to realize that opening in full 5 days a week, brick and mortar, means that there's going to be very little ability to social distance within a regular classroom. We will likely be not even 3 feet apart with our numbers unless if more than 30% of families choose to stay home. And I'm given some of the comments I'm hearing, I'm not sure that people are fully aware that that's going to be part of opening up in green. I'm also hearing from a lot of the families that the survey didn't really give them an opportunity to reflect their opinions on what might be best for their families. I'm surprised that if we were looking at a hybrid model that involves splitting the student population in half or 2 cohort groups, it hasn't been worked out yet that we could do so to benefit families alphabetically so that kids would be attending on the same days. I would think that another vote would be appropriate after surveying parents to see if that's an option that they prefer and to show what that schedule will actually look like. That's all.
Thank you, Ms. Hicks. I'm certain that this isn't, I mean, obviously not the last we've heard of this issue before school starts. So I believe we have one more comment in the room.
Shane Cochran with the one.
No?
Shane Cochran, 830 Geigertown Road. There's been more discussion with the hybrid versus full school. And as Dr. Cooper stated, the board is going to have to decide, and it's going to be the majority who gets the pick. You're going to have a lot of people unhappy either way, so you're going to have to make your best decision on what you feel best suits everybody. That being said, you really need to look at a hybrid that will help the problems that's been stated. Is that you're going to have kindergartners at home by themselves, parents working. So if you can figure out a hybrid that fixes that problem, I think more people will be, would go that route. You can have 80% of your survey that you send out say that you want a hybrid, but you still need 4 board members to change their mind. So the public needs to understand that, as Dr. Cooper said, the majority makes the decision. Second, I drove past the high school and noticed the paving. When did you guys decide to do the paving on the schools? And what was that cost? I couldn't find the cost the paving.
The decision to get quotes, I believe, was in December of last year or in January.
Yeah, that was way early, back in November, or we started doing that way.
After we hired Mr. Biggerstaff as facilities director, we had an engineering survey done of the paving, and it all failed, or was considered significantly deteriorated.
But they did a lot of that when they put in the stadium in high school.
I can't. I'm not an engineer,
Because
so.
that's my next part of this is, I'm not sure if you're aware, when they built the stadium, they said the turf field is only going to last 10 to 12 years.
Yeah, it's, we have money in the, we had it evaluated this year. We have money in the capital budget, or we will at the end of this year. It's supposed to happen next summer.
Pushed it as long as we could.
And
Yeah, that'll be it.
Will that be the track as well? Because I know the track was supposed to last like.
Yeah, Mr. Biggerstaff isn't here, but I know he
4
answered this
years
question
more.
for us. He answered this question, I just don't remember the answer.
I don't remember the answer either, but it was, we definitely, yeah, we've been.
And he also wanted to address the fact that there is something with the track.
Yeah.
Yeah, he wanted to make that, he wanted to fix that when we did the redo. And that money, we've been setting aside money for 5 years into
Right,
the
but
capital
that
budget to make that happen.
That might change. Because
I guess
of
it could.
How much we're going to have to be spending on the COVID to make the schools up to par, the safety issues.
It's not it's not as easy as just spending the money to move that money out of capital budget to go spend it on something else.
Yeah,
I mean, but you're right, in an emergency situation, I guess it is possible that we could do that.
Well,
But that's not the
capital.
intention.
You can't use it to pay salaries and benefits, but you can change it from the football field to a roof, or a roof to,
I guess that's true,
New
but we have put off, I mean, just probably because it's such a big ticket item. You're in the red, so I'm gonna have the last word.
Yeah, but I do.
No.
No.
Like you say, you can email me. You can email me.
I would like
You
to know
can
the
email me.
cost.
I'm not answering. No, yeah, the cost of the repaving, I believe it was 100-ish.
No, the actual paving was
1.2 million.
It's a district-wide project. It was not just this high school.
No, I saw it.
Yeah.
Middle school and primary center and anyways.
Yeah.
The concrete was done first at about 800.
And we did look at it parceled out, if we did it at different times, and, it would have cost more, obviously. And
Can I add that they found like a sinkhole or something?
at MEC, at the primary center,
Just
yes.
That they found a sinkhole that was repaired prior because of the paving. It wasn't caused by the paving, but because they were paving.
Right.
They found
it and were able to rectify it.
Yeah,
But go ahead with your last one.
Yeah.
that was it.
Can I just say something?
No.
Just,
Oh, wait, hold on.
yeah, get the green light.
Go ahead. Have a seat, sir.
I'm getting blown up here by emails and stuff, but I just want you to know that this discussion, for your sake, as much as everyone that's listening there's still a discussion about what we're going to do with school. And, I mean, I can tell you that I'm seeing some not so real favorable emails and stuff coming through, and I mean, I take that stuff seriously. So, I mean, it's like, we're certainly, I think it's still fluid.
Yeah, and there's going to be
And I think we all are, I mean, we can appreciate it. You know, we're parents too. I have 3 kids here. So, maybe just move. I'm sure there'll be hopefully some movement. Hopefully. But for another day, so I can't speak.
Were you going to finish what you wanted to say?
No, Miss Haynes had to answer the question, because I didn't know the answer, obviously.
She's actually forgotten.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, sir. Okay, if I don't see any other hands raised, and where are we? Can I get a motion to adjourn?
Yes.
We are adjourned. Thank you, everyone. Oh, I forgot to tell Kevin he had to meet us.
I called.
Okay.
I do know. I'm not going to say. I'll tell you in a minute.
If you wanted me to know, then I can.
No.
Because he needs to
We'll go
make
back.
some decisions, so.
We'll go back to his office. Stand far apart.
But there's
Thanks
a
for
whole
coming.
thing behind that.
I know it's an idea.
Huh?
It's going to be open to the public now?
They have been,
Oh, they have that.
yeah, just for this month.
Okay.
So committee meetings, it'll all be here, and, I have to say something about that.
That was my other thing, but.
That is, and, I did forget to say something about it. I might do, like, a comment, on the board website for the next meeting. It's okay to have people here.
Yeah, I just, I've been asked here for the last.
You know, but, you know, I kind of said.
Turn the email off when they have the meeting.
Turn the email off.
No way.
Your email.
It's very difficult.
Oh, I can see it in the back too. It adds an extra hour.
Thank you.
Good night,
I was running so late, I thank you very much for giving me this. Well, I'm going home.
Mr. Gurley said the executive in here,
Yeah.
so, okay.
I gotta get up there.
No, he's right.
I'm not going home
Bucky,
there.
we're doing executive. Bucky.
Bucky, stay here.
Doing here.
Doing
Are we staying here?
Yep.
Let me call.
I wanted to get closer.
Let me call Kevin.
Closer over. I'm sure there's water somewhere in this thing.
Yeah, just want go grab one out of my
Oh,
office.
he's got getting you water. Oh, he's not getting you water.
Hey, you want water?
Where's the?
Hey, Kevin, we stuck around in the boardroom here. We're going to do a quick executive session here. So I have you on speakerphone.
Thank you.
Hey. That's Kevin.
Hi, everybody.
Yeah, I guess real quick, what I wanted to bring up with the board is after a meeting this morning with, actually this afternoon with the association leadership, one of the requests or questions they asked if it was a possibility for us to delay the start of the school year by a couple of days to provide more professional and continual learning opportunities for our staff members to prepare them for the start of the year. Should it be something in more of a virtual realm or hybrid realm? I mean, although we're a month away from the start of the school year, I just continue to see things changing with guidance and so on and so forth. So I think we're going to see, as I indicated when I gave my report, we're going to continue to see on a more frequent basis the changes in the guidance. So what's the board's take on negotiating a change to our calendar to reflect something like that, where there's a give and take, and perhaps take some of the PD days that were perhaps in October and November, put them in August, and then allow for some flexibility with them to pick up some time in the event that they use one of the flex days they have in their contract to prepare their rooms. And if they're not preparing their rooms because this thing ends up turning bad in a hurry, that we give them more time to prepare for virtual, and then we pick that time up later on in the event that there's a vaccine and we can get back to whatever normal is. And what's the board's feeling on that?
When Dr. Cooper had mentioned this to me after they had their meeting with the teachers today to set up some sort of to get some baseline of what a memorandum of understanding would look like. for some of the things that we'll need to have in place, no matter which, for green, yellow, red. That I thought that if the way that the memorandum was written, to say, if we have a hybrid model, scaffolded model, or an online learning model, that this like for like, to push some of their push some of their professional development days forward. Thank you, to have some professional development before school starts. I thought that was an easy ask, and I don't think it's a problem.
We asked for that at our thing. We were
And it's like,
denied,
and
I
it's,
think it is an easy ask. It's
yeah,
not-
and it's like, and if we write it as, if we do one of these other three models, we'll make this trade-off. I thought that it was a very easy thing to give them the authority to deal with.
They're still doing the same amount of professional development days. It doesn't matter when they're.
Right. And if we go back 5 days a week,